Oh my goodness, I totally forgot.
Have you met our wonderful youth organizer?
So nice to meet you.
Also, Lisa's daughter. That's true. Don't miss out. Sure.
I bet nightlife. That's either here or there. No, I was gonna ask you guys. I feel like it's gonna be big. I saw this like TikTok about like
If I get everyone to take their seats, we'll get started. All right, good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 19th. It's about 5:35 p.m., and we are calling this regular meeting of the Wake County Board of Education to order. I want to welcome everyone who might be watching at home and to those of us who are here for a full house watching in person tonight. Wake County Board of Education meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying on the official business of the school system. The public is cordially invited to attend board meetings to observe the board as it conducts official business. Persons who willfully interrupt, disrupt, or cause disturbances at an official meeting may be directed to leave by the presiding officer. Members of the audience should show respect for the speakers by refraining from loud comments or other disruptions. Disruptions by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with General Statute 143-318-17. I believe everyone is in. If I could get everyone to take a seat. All right. We do have 8 of our 9 members here. We do have a quorum. And so if everyone at this point, stand if you are able, and we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We have what we are calling a robust agenda tonight. So without further ado, we will turn it over to Superintendent Taylor for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for being here tonight. Start off by saying congratulations to Molly McNeil of Joyner Magnet Elementary School, who was named the 23-24 School Social Worker of the Year. Ms. McNeil has been a school social worker in our district for 10 years. Senior Administrator Angela Caldwell, who supervises as Ms. McNeil, says, Molly has such a big heart. Her deep compassion for families in their challenging circumstances drives her to work tirelessly to find every possible resource available to help them. Our 130 school social workers provide invaluable support to students and families who are experiencing difficulties, helping meet both their physical and social emotional needs so they can stay engaged in school. Their work is essential if we are to meet the objectives set forth in our strategic plan. I'm grateful to Ms. McNeil and all her colleagues for the compassion and professionalism they display and demonstrate each day. Congratulations are also in order for 5 of our athletic directors who were honored this past weekend by the North Carolina Athletic Directors Association. Rod Whitesell of Holly Springs High School received the Brave Heart Award, given to athletic directors who have exhibited bravery and courage while enduring trying personal experiences. Shane Zimmerman of Holly Grove Middle received the Middle School Athletic Director of Excellence Award. James Mountford of Fuquay-Varina High School received the Athletic Director of Excellence Award, honoring significant contributions to athletics across the region, state, and nation. And Colin Fagley of Green Level High School received the President's Award for his service this past year as President of the Athletic Directors Association. And Darren Coe, our district's Director of Athletics, received the Jerry McGee Award of Excellence, the most prestigious award presented by the association. Athletics benefits our students and our schools in so many ways. Our athletic directors provide stability for our athletic programs while promoting student safety, high-quality coaching, school spirit, and healthy competition. So again, my hat's off to these 5 outstanding athletic directors for being among the best in the entire state. We're so very proud of what they've accomplished. Finally, my thanks to everyone who has supported this year's Wake Up and Read book drive. Thanks to your generosity, Wake Up and Read will be able to provide more than 100,000 books to students who need them most. More than 125 collection partners, including businesses, civic groups, and schools, supported this drive. The books will be distributed to 18 Wake County partner schools and 16 child care centers. Just because this year's book drive is officially over doesn't mean it's too late to support childhood literacy in Wake County, so you can still donate. You can drop off books anytime using the bins at Wake Up and Read's headquarters at 1820 Capitol Boulevard in Raleigh. You can also make a financial contribution at any time. I'll say that part again. You can also make a financial contribution anytime. We know that students who have access to books at home at an early age are more likely to develop the literacy skills that are the foundation for academic success. That's why we are so appreciative of the Wake Up and Read Coalition and everyone who contributes. Visit wakeupandread.org to learn more about how you can support literacy in our community. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll yield back to you.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Taylor. We have a long agenda tonight with a lot of important items. I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate the NC State Wolfpack for the first time since 1987 that we can congratulate them on their ACC championship. Extend Coach Keats. All right. We've been very busy the last few weeks, a lot of important issues, some of which will come up tonight, some of which haven't been able to find a place on our agenda. For those of you, I recognize some of our friends in the law enforcement community who came out to the town hall that we had on social media, and I wanted to thank you for your presence and your support there. This is something that our board, all members of our board, are taking very seriously. We had a wonderful event at Athens Drive High School in Miss Edmonds District, but that work doesn't stop. We'll have more conversations about this, but today we're going to focus on some other very important topics. And so with that, I'm just going to end my comments and turn it over to Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler.
Thank you very much. I will also be very brief. So I will not have to talk about Wake Up and Read because you did, and yes, please still donate books and money. But I will add to that for those of you who do not follow Wake County Smart Start, please do, because they have the Dolly Parton Imagination Library back up so that each of our young babies before the age of 5 can receive a book every month up until their 5th birthday. So I'll add that to Wake Up and Read. Additionally, I would also add that we've all been reading across America for most of February and March. And I will share my most, it's a story that I'll keep with me. Most of you heard me talk about the student that I've been reading with through Wake Ed Partnership, Wake Reads. And so I've read with the same little girl every Friday. When I started working with her, not a lot of reading aloud, not a lot of talking. That was when she was in 1st grade. She's in 3rd now. And so I got to see her because she wants to see me every time I come. And she told me that she still had, many of you heard me say this probably 2 years ago, I had my mother-in-law make her a quilted carrying case for her books. And so her sister starts kindergarten in August, and so she asked me to make one for her sister so she could also have her own personal library. And I love that how she describes me to kids. I'm her person. So when the students were like, who are you hugging? That's not your mom. And she was like, it's my person. So I will end on that note. That is why we dedicate our time to our young people, because like our educators, those of us who can give our time, please also look up Wake Ed Partnership because they need lots of partners to read to our students. They start reading on Fridays, most schools, every Friday. And if you can't do every Friday, they'll take you anyway. So please look up Wake Ed Partnership to help our youngest students feel good about themselves through their literary scholarship. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler. I see some folks still writing, so I'll go over to this side of the table. Mr. Hershey.
Good eyes. I'll keep this very short. I apologize for not doing this for everybody, but I just want to give special recognition to our Lady Owls who are here today from the Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. I don't know if there are any from the Young Men's Academy, but I just appreciate y'all being here and the families being here and the support and love you give to the Leadership Academies. I look forward to hearing from you in a little while. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Dr. Ng.
Good evening. I had the opportunity last week to attend a couple of conferences. The first one was the Spring Law Conference sponsored by the North Carolina School Board Association. They talked about some really fascinating and relevant topics, including the pros and cons of artificial intelligence, Title IX implications on athletic facilities use, and the implementation of school threat assessment teams. I also attended a virtual conference sponsored by the Carolinas Academic Leadership Network on the issue of discipline and restorative justice in our schools. It was a lot of food for thought, and it gave me a lot to think about. And I was glad that I attended, and I want to thank both of these organizations for hosting these conferences. I want to welcome all our law enforcement friends here tonight. Thank you for being here to help recognize our resolution that we'll be talking about. This is probably the most secure place in Wake County right now. And I am honored to have you all here, and I appreciate that you do for our community. I am keenly aware of the sacrifice you guys have made every day. My nephew and his wife are both in the police officers in the Houston Police Department. And I remember how proud my nephew was to complete the police academy and how excited he was to start his first day as a rookie patrolling with his partner. And then a few years later, when Hurricane Harvey hits Houston, and the whole city was essentially flooded, my nephew had to stay at his post during the storm. And meanwhile, his mother, my sister, had to deal with flooding that was coming into the house and eventually destroyed the house. But he couldn't just stop, drop everything to take care of his mother, but he had to stay on his task. So I understand the sacrifices you guys make. And I also know that people who serve as the school resource officers in our schools, they have a especially dedicated job because they're serving children. And you guys who work as SROs keep our grounds safe, our children safe, and that service does not go unnoticed. So this resolution, to me, represents a partnership with you all in your mission to keep this entire community safe. And I am hoping that by urging people to keep the guns stored and away from the hands of children, that we can help prevent senseless deaths and reduce needless emotional trauma. Thank you also for all the other people in the community, including Be Smart, who kind of helped spearhead some of the talk about this in the last couple of years. Lastly, we will be having our next BAC meeting for District 3 on Monday, April the 22nd at Northridge Elementary School, so more information will be coming soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. Ms. Edmonds?
Thank you. Since our last meeting, I attended an event at Centennial Magnet Middle School, their Harlem Renaissance Museum. Students created projects based on their study of the Harlem Renaissance, and these projects covered a wide range of mediums. Some were art projects, including song or music or both. Some studied important literature of that time, and this was a living museum experience. I was so impressed with their work. Thanks to the students and staff at Centennial for all their hard work on what was a great showcase of talent. I want to thank Mr. Swanson, Senator Gail Adcock, and Commissioner Cheryl Stallings for putting together a community town hall on school funding and safety. I, Ms. Mahaffey, and Dr. Taylor were invited to participate, and it was a time of good public engagement with members of the Western Wake community. Thank you, Mr. Swanson, for including me. Dr. Taylor and I went to church together on Sunday. The members of St. Mary's Free Will Baptist Church in Holly Springs welcomed us to their worship service, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. Dr. Taylor has visited several churches with other board members, so I very much appreciate your intentional visibility at events and gatherings throughout the district. Thank you, sir, for your commitment to be in community with the people of Wake County. It means a lot. Finally, I want to lift up the safe storage resolution we're passing this evening. I've been active in the work of gun violence prevention for almost 10 years through Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and to now be a member of this board and in a position to take such an action is deeply meaningful to me. I want to thank Lisa Luton and her staff for working hard on getting this language right, checking all of our citations, and working with our community partners. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much, Lisa, to you and your staff. If this resolution and our commitment to educating parents and the community about safe gun storage prevents one act of violence or one act of accidental harm, it's worth all our time and energy. I look forward to supporting it this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming back around the table, we'll go to Ms. Rice.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be very short, too. Just want to really highlight Bug Elementary and the amazing sneaker ball that I got to attend that Dr. Taylor was not at. He had another meeting, but no, seriously. And Con Elementary for STEM night, they did an amazing job as well. The students were so dapper. I was really excited to see the book dispenser there, since we're talking about books. I also just wanted to encourage folks around our books and literacy. Liberation Station is an amazing place to purchase a book that might move around cultural norms, or that other people might can consider in doing that with their books. And so just two things I want to highlight, which is environmental wellness. Just want to encourage people to bike or walk, and choose these eco-friendly options for short trips. Then there's an eco-friendly commute. Consider an electric or hybrid vehicle. And also compost, turn food scraps into nutrient-rich soil. And then spiritual wellness. I got to enjoy Macedonia New Life Church. They had a youth Sunday that was there, and so that was very exciting with Dr. Joe Stevenson. And so I got to operate in those two wellness domains within our community, where I got to watch even the clergy gather around its professionals within the ministry around mental health that were professionals within that. So it was a robust couple of weeks engaging with schools, and enjoyed every moment of it.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Ms. Caulfield.
Thank you. Is this thing on? Last week I had the opportunity to enjoy 2 third-grade classes with Read Across America. You not only enjoy all of their energy when you're sitting in the class, but it's like they went on a field trip. They just get so excited to have a visitor come in and share the time with them. And also the fact that, I left a book with each one of them, you would have thought it was a piece of gold. They really do get very excited. When we were talking about the different books, they also shared all of their stories with us, and it really warms your heart. So I'm just putting a plug out there in case you can't tell, to kind of go and visit your schools and be with these adorable little children. They really appreciate it. The teacher also, she was pretty involved in it as we spoke about diversity and different things. It showed a story that was written by a local author here in Apex, and it was a story about a little boy who was colorblind, and all the children were able to add stories and what they thought and what it might be like for them. It was really great to see all their energy and hear all their stories about it. And while we were there, the teacher, who was from Jamaica, took out some of her money, and she passed it around to all of the students, and they got to feel. And in Jamaica, they have, there's like a clear strip on it, and it has a texture to it. So it tells you what your money is in case you are blind or have some kind of challenges or something like that. So everybody passed it around, and then they took out our dollars, and we were comparing what it was like. So they had a lot of great energy and a lot of good stories to go back. And when I was leaving, they were asking me when I was coming back, and please come back and read to us again. So just really kind of teared me up a little bit as I was leaving, and I look forward to going back. So I'm kind of putting that little plug in there to, if you could kind of donate your time. If you don't have the time and that's not on your side, if you can donate books to your local schools. Any school, you do not have to be a parent in that school. You could sign up to be volunteer in any of your local schools to come in and do either or. I wanted to congratulate Roseville High School for their win to the Women's State Basketball Championship. I know that they are enjoying that reward for that title for all their hard work, so go Rams. Today starts the shed competition hosted at Roseville High School. The awards are this Thursday. I know that there were students last year that I got to speak with that they got their hands-on experience and their team-building skills, and they were really pretty excited with it, and it's encouraged them to go on and actually seek careers. in some of these fields. So good luck to all of those teams. Wednesday, they are going to, and it's also the vault competition as well, so I wanted to mention that. So Wednesday, they'll have the award for the vault, and Thursday for the shed competition. I think it's between 2:30 and 3:30. Good luck to all. I wanted to say another congratulations to all our semifinalists. I saw a couple of District 1 coming up along here, so I just want to give another shout out to that. And today we're going to speak about gun safety and the resolution. And this is something that does not have a side, a color, an age, a nationality, or gender. It's something that is important to all of us, and it's important that we are educated on it, diligent, and alert to all of the signs. And I am thankful that we're standing in unison on this subject of gun safety, and we'll continue to do work to keep our community and our children safe. And to all of our law enforcement and to those who serve our country, I want to say thank you for your sacrifice, your dedication to our community, and for keeping our kids safe. I know my kids' first experience was in the DARE program in 5th grade, where they had a real police officer come out, and they were able to, ask questions and talk to them, and it was really very important to have them there. And it just really gave them a good light on being a police officer, and of course, they went home and played dress up for a while, so they were very encouraged by all of that. So thank you very much for all your hard work and dedication. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Caulfield. And we will end with Mr. Swanson.
Thank you. So that means I get to take up the time that my other colleagues had used. I'm joking. I want to start by saying thank you to the District 9 BAC members. We concluded our meetings for this year. I want to thank the Office of Equity Affairs for coming out and giving us a very high overview of some of the work that they do. And I thought it was very important for our PTAs to hear the various businesses that PTAs can engage with as they are supporting our schools. I also wanted to thank Ms. Horton at Kingswood Elementary for inviting me to read across America. I was able to read 2 books, The Bad Seed and the Good Seed. I'm sorry, The Bad Seed and the Good Egg, excuse me. And raise, maybe I'm the bad seed. But it was a great book that really had some great lessons in there, and they really raised some very interesting and challenging questions about governance and what that looked like. And some of them kind of threw me on my toes with some of their questions. And I also want to thank Ms. Barcelona at Wilburn for inviting me to participate, and I had the opportunity. I think the 3 of us read the same book, The Crown, which is an ode to the fresh haircut, which was very befitting to what we had in policy. So it was just great to see and hear those students light up, and really the shared connection that we all have at the barbershop or beauty salons, which was really great. And I also want to, just make 1 or 2 comments about the resolution that we'll be discussing this evening. I think it's very important, and it shows not only our commitment, but it also shows the community around us, and that we can't do this work alone, just like our municipalities can't do this work alone, and our law enforcement. We all have to be at the table together, working side by side to ensure that our communities are safe, and that we see the signs, and that we are able to build communities so we can prevent these tragic events from happening. And so I want to, thank the public for their input and the emails that we received around the resolution and the advocacy. I've received a couple of emails from constituents urging all of us to support this. So I look forward to that. And I want to thank the staff for the hard work and dedication, Ms. Luton and Mr. Scott, that went on behind the scenes, and Superintendent, for this great thing. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to some of the great dialogue that we'll have this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Swanson. So that concludes our board comments. Before we adopt tonight's meeting agenda, I want to entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add approval of our administrative appointments and recommendations, HR recommendations that we made in closed session. I'd like to just add that to our consent agenda, if anyone would make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion from Ms. Edmonds, a second from Mr. Swanson. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you. And now that the agenda has been amended, all in favor of approving the meeting agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, is there a motion to
Motion.
entertain the agenda?
Yeah.
All right. Long agenda, and I'm just getting started. I apologize, y'all. Motion for Mr. Hershey to approve tonight's amended meeting agenda, and I heard a second from Vice Chair Johnson Hostler. All in favor of the amended agenda for tonight's meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. The meeting agenda has been adjourned, or has been approved. Yo, I've got a lot tonight. I've got a lot tonight. All right. I might, we have the vice chair for such things as state funerals and ribbon cuttings. She might just have to jump in tonight. I think some of this is because we know we have a big night tonight. We have a full house. We have so many of our employees and staff who are here to be with us tonight for important issues that we're considering. We also have so many members of our law enforcement community, as well as parents and other concerned community members, advocates who've been working in this space, related to safe gun storage for a long, long time. And so, but really before we get started, I just want to recognize and say thank you to all of you, the many law enforcement partners we have tonight. I recognize some of you I have not met before, so I'm going to have to use a cheat sheet. I apologize. But I would like to recognize and welcome Apex Police Department Chief Jason Armstrong, Cary Police Department Lieutenant Elizabeth Pearson, Fuquay Police Department PIO Chris Gathman, Morrisville Police Chief Pete Acosta, Chief, there he is, and PIO Rox Cruz, Raleigh Police Department Chief Deputy Chief Rico Boyce, and Lieutenant Jason Borneo. And finally, we will be joined a little bit later by Wake County Sheriff Willie Rowe. I don't know if we have Lieutenant Charlie Twitty here from the Sheriff's Office, also Deputy Ryan Doxey. Major Dan Shropshire, our SRO coordinator. We especially are pleased that you're here, Major Shropshire. Thank you. And PIO Rosalia Federa. All right, there she is. Thank you. I also want to thank our advocacy partners who played such an important role and have worked for a long time in bringing a lot of the facts, but a lot of the information that we've shared out with families about this important information. And again, all the parents who've joined us this evening, and I know there are others that are watching who aren't joining us tonight, but have had discussions in PTAs and school assemblies and in our board advisory committees about this topic. This is one of our highest priorities, ensuring the safety and well-being of all of our students. And as a board, I think each and every one of us has spoken out at this table about the importance of safe gun storage and preventative measures we can take to protect all of our students, to keep them from harming themselves and from harming others. Gun violence, as we know, is one of the leading causes of injury and death among students in our country. We have talked about issues related to suicide prevention. We know firearms are often used in these horrible, horrible incidents, but whether targeted, unintentional, self-inflicted, so many of these tragedies could have been prevented, we know, by restricting child's access to firearms. They have to be getting these guns from somewhere, and everything that we can do on the front end to prevent that and stop that is a tragedy averted. And we know safe gun storage is a crucial component of responsible gun ownership. We hear this from gun owners who agree. Proper gun storage reduces the risk of accidents, unauthorized access, theft. We know that it's imperative that firearms need to be secured safely and securely, whether that's at home, whether that's in a vehicle. Putting it in a loved glove box is not securing your firearm. And so we're grateful for the dedication and partnership of our local law enforcement community that is working so hard to get this message out. Their expertise and collaboration have been invaluable as we've gone to them for information about safety, about statistics, about what we can do as a school system to work with our community to get this message out there. They've played an important role in the development of this resolution, and they continue to bring security to our schools each day. So today we're proud to announce a resolution focused on this issue of safe gun storage, and it emphasizes, as you'll hear in a moment, education, awareness, and collaboration as key tools in this really this fight to prevent gun violence. This is going to be the start. It's one thing to just read a resolution and then, we'll clap and there'll be pictures taken, but we want this to go beyond this. We want this to be an ongoing and regular practice, a real commitment to the families in our district, to share the resources that will really address the community needs. We have a safe storage website, wcpss.net /safe storage. It is now live with information on how to securely store firearms and how to obtain other safety information and tools. The district will be sharing these and other school safety updates and resources with all staff and all families on a regular basis. We'll also be connecting our school leaders with law enforcement to organize events for the families and for the students that will be dedicated to educating them on the importance of gun safety. This is a multi-tiered approach. There's no one right answer. We know that a lot of our families receive messages differently. We can't just put this out on an email and hope everybody gets it. And so we are committed to making sure that all families get this important information and continue to get it throughout the year. By working together as a community, activists, advocates, staff, law enforcement, parents, we will make a difference in safeguarding our students from these preventable tragedies. So what I'd like to do now is read this rather oversized resolution, if you'll bear with me. Once we have read it, I will entertain a motion to sign for passage of the resolution. We'll take a vote on the resolution, and then for board members, if the resolution does pass, then I would invite all of you to come up and sign the resolution here immediately at the board table. Then we have some law enforcement partners that we'd like to recognize and hear from, and then at the conclusion of those remarks, we will take a brief recess. All right, so if I might, I'd like to read fresh off the printer. Whereas evidence strongly suggests that secure firearms storage is an essential component to any effective strategy to keep schools and students safe. Whereas an estimated 4.6 American children live in households possessing at least one firearm, and 4.6 of those live in a household with at least one loaded and unlocked firearm. Whereas every year an average of 350 children under the age of 18 unintentionally shoot themselves or someone else. That's nearly one unintentional shooting per day, and more than 70% of these incidents take place inside their home. Whereas another 1,200 children and teens die by gun suicide each year, most often using guns belonging to a family member. Whereas in incidents of gun violence on school grounds, the large majority of active shooters were current students or recent graduates, and up to 76% of the shooters aged 12 to 18 obtained their guns from their own home, a relative's home, or a friend's home. Whereas in incidents of gun violence on school grounds, more than 90% of active shooters displayed prior social emotional well-being challenges, whereas research shows that secure firearms storage practices are associated with up to a 32% reduction in the risk of self-inflicted and unintentional firearm deaths, and an 85% reduction in the risk of unintentional injuries among children and teens. Whereas the United States Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center recommends the importance of appropriate storage of firearms, and whereas across the country, lawmakers, community members, and local leaders are working together to implement public awareness campaigns, such as the North Carolina Secure All Firearms Effectively, NC SAFE program, which is endorsed by the North Carolina Department of Public and Safety, and also by the Be Smart campaign, which is endorsed by the National Parent Teacher Association and the North Carolina Pediatric Society, which encourages safe gun storage practices and highlights the public safety risks associated with unsecured firearms. Whereas school districts across the country have begun to proactively send materials home to parents and guardians, informing them of applicable firearm storage laws and School districts across the country have begun to proactively send materials home to parents and guardians, informing them of applicable firearm storage laws and firearm secure storage best practices. And whereas keeping students, teachers, staff, and families safe from the threat of gun violence should be the responsibility of all adult stakeholders. Whereas state law imposes penalties on adults when a child gains unauthorized access to an improperly stored firearm, therefore, be it resolved that the board directs the superintendent and the staff to regularly and consistently provide families with information and resources on the importance of secure gun storage, the legal consequences to parents and guardians when a child gains unauthorized access to an improperly stored firearm, best practices for secure gun storage as reviewed by local law enforcement partners, and mental and behavioral health resources. At this time, I would entertain a motion. We have a motion from Mr. Swanson. We have a second from Vice Chair Johnson Hostler. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We will now sign the resolution. Just come on up, yeah. All right. We'll go in order, one. Just that one. Three. Four. And five. Six.
Before I bend over and you get the ball, please.
8 and 9. All right, if everyone wants to stand up, we'll get a nice picture of it. Come on around. All right. Everybody take one step this way. This way. There you go. All right.
All right, looking here. 3, 2, smile. Very good.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So now it's my pleasure to introduce some of our important partners to share some brief remarks. First, I'd like to call on Apex Police Chief Jason Armstrong. Chief?
Thank you, Board Chairman, and thank you to everybody for coming out this evening, and thank you all, board members, for supporting this effort. We heard a lot of statistics, and there are a lot of numbers, and they're alarming when we hear all of those things. But tonight I want to tell you all a story about a young man named Malachi Hemphill. I'm sure many of you, probably none of you have heard the name Malachi Hemphill before. In 2017, I was working in the Forest Park Police Department in Forest Park, Georgia, where I started my career. And Malachi at the time was 13 years old. He was 13 years old, and Malachi happened to come into possession of a handgun at 13 years old. He got this handgun, and he started going on Instagram Live playing with this handgun, and he started to become real popular with his friends, and his friends would log on and they would watch Malachi play with this gun on Instagram Live. And unfortunately, one evening, he was upstairs in his room. His mother and his sister were downstairs in their apartment, and the mother hears a loud bang. She runs upstairs. She has to kick his door in. Malachi had accidentally shot himself in the head and killed himself on Instagram Live in front of all of his friends. And so when we hear those numbers, we don't often understand the impact that a community has when we talk about gun safety and gun storage. And this gun had been taken because it wasn't properly stored, and that's how it came into the possession of Malachi. And not only was his family and their life forever impacted by that tragedy, but think about all of the kids that watched that happen on that video and how their lives are forever impacted by that. And so we hear the big numbers, and the numbers are alarming, but it's different when you have experienced that in your community and you have a name that you can attach to one of those numbers. And so I pray for all of us in here that the efforts that we're taking today and the efforts that we will continue to take will lead to none of us having a name that we can attach to that. And that is the power of the work that we can do when we're working together for the greater good, not just our community as a whole, but especially for our most vulnerable, and that's our young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next up, I'd like to get remarks from Mooresville Police Chief Pete Acosta. Chief?
So my name is Pete Acosta. I'm the Chief of Police in Mooresville. So first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for having me here. Sometimes I think it's really important that you are recognized. You are recognized, and you deserve a thank you and a job well done. We're very thankful for this, bringing this topic to the forefront, the hard work each and every one of you have done, and especially for the staff of Wake County Schools who work with these children each and every day, and the hard work. We see you and we appreciate you, and we look forward to our continued partnership. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Deputy Chief Boyce.
Hello, my name is Rico Boyce. I'm one of the deputy chiefs for the Raleigh Police Department. I'm grateful to stand in solidarity with my law enforcement colleagues throughout the county, as well as all the staff with Wake County Public School System. The joint effort is a testament to our shared commitment to prioritizing the safety and well-being of our community, especially our children. Gun safety is just not about laws and regulations, but raising awareness and responsibility. It's about ensuring that every individual who owns a firearm understands the gravity of ownership and is fully prepared to handle, secure it with the utmost care. Education plays a pivotal role in gun safety. The secure storage of firearms mitigates accidental and intentional shootings. Learning how to properly use and store a firearm and understanding the consequences of negligence is critical. Initiatives and programs dedicated to teaching these fundamentals can significantly reduce accidental shootings and save lives in and outside of our schools. Secure storage is non-negotiable. Firearms should always be unloaded and locked away with ammunition stored separately. This simple step can prevent curious hands from turning a moment of negligence into a lifetime of regret. As officers, we have an obligation to enforce those laws that require you to secure your firearms so that they are not accessible to children. When the law is broken, you will be held accountable. Within the city of Raleigh, we continue to see an increase in reported weapons violations. There was 502 incidents involving a firearm in the year 2023. We also see an increase in legal possessions of weapons as well as carrying concealed weapons violations in the city of Raleigh. Our officers continue to proactively remove weapons from our streets, many of which are stolen from vehicles and homes. Firearm safety is just not firearm safety is not just the concern of firearm owners. It's a societal issue that demands our collective efforts. Each one of us, from law enforcement to school board to the school system to every family here, has a role to play in this critical endeavor. Through education and secure storage, we can work together to prevent tragedies and create a safer Raleigh and Wake County for all. On behalf of Chief Patterson and the entire Raleigh Police Department, I want to thank the Wake County School Board. I want to thank the Wake County Public School System for this partnership and the commitment to create a safer community for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. And finally, I'd like to hear from our Wake County Sheriff, the Honorable Willie Rowe.
Good evening, and thank you for the privilege of your time. I apologize for being late. I just completed a meeting at Wake Med where I'm working to develop better health care for the inmates that are entrusted in our care in the jail. But again, it's an honor to be here tonight. You know, keeping our families and our loved ones safe in our homes, at school, at the workplace, throughout the community is the top priority to all. Therefore, we embrace this opportunity to partner with the school system, with our members of public safety and the public health to meet this commitment of safer gun storage. We all know that secure weapons help us move a step closer to saving lives and ending gun violence. So we're committed, and we believe that this endeavor will allow us to educate as well as hold people accountable, but also provide the tools and resources in the form of gun locks, safes, and storage boxes for people to properly store their weapons. Stats have shown there's definitely a reduction in gun violence, suicides, and as well as injuries and deaths related to gun violence. So again, we embrace this opportunity, look forward to working together, and always know in the sheriff's office you have a partner and a good neighbor. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Sheriff Rowe. All right, so we will have a brief recess now. We'll have an opportunity for our friends in law enforcement to mingle. I know some people would like to talk to them as well. We'll transition the room, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you all, everyone. All right, if we can come back together, we still have a lengthy agenda. I'd ask everyone to take their seats. All right, thank you all. The next item on our agenda is an information item. This is a presentation on the superintendent's proposed budget by Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Get my rice cake out of my mouth. Tonight, the administration will present the superintendent's operating budget for the 24-25 school year. Presented with the fiscal challenge of the end of the ESSER funds, administration has developed a budget that focuses on Wake County's commitment to our strategic plan and the equitable distribution of resources while simultaneously preparing to address the approaching fiscal cliff. The superintendent's budget is being presented much earlier in order to provide the Board of Education with ample time to garner feedback from constituents and craft the final Board of Education budget to be presented to the Board of Commissioners. Administration has worked diligently to address the most pressing needs for the next school year. This budget continues to focus on three critical areas important to student success. Student knowledge and skills. Funding is requested to maintain full-time substitute teachers, critical to the support of teachers and students. Funding master's pay for the next group of educators qualifying for the benefit, critical to teacher retention. Funding to support the opening of the new Woods Creek Elementary School. In the area of student disposition and well-being, funding to maintain the current level of social workers, counselors, and school psychologists. These are positions critical to supporting the mental health needs of our students that we surely recognized during the pandemic. In operational effectiveness, funding to support legislated salary increases for employees, funding to cover state law requirements of surrendering local funds to charter schools for students, residents of Wake County attending a charter school. Funding to support the extended care programs that support the bus driver shortage. While there are many financial needs to support student success, this budget reflects the most critical areas necessary for continued success. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, David Nieder, for the budget details. David.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, and good evening, Chair Haggerty, members of the board. Okay, great, it's already up. So what we are going to share with you this evening, again, it's an information item, and it's the first formal step that the board will now work through in developing a board's proposed budget. Again, tonight is just for presentation. At your April 2nd work session, you'll have a budget work session. You'll likely have a second budget work session at your second April meeting, and any additional work sessions as you deem appropriate and need. So tonight we're going to share with you highlights, you've heard a few already, of the superintendent's proposed budget for 2024-2025. Give you a little context of the landscape. We also heard a bit there with perhaps one of the biggest drivers of this year's budget being the fiscal transition away from federal pandemic relief funds. I'm going to also share with you potential risks with the budget. A budget, as I've shared previously, is really a forecast of what we think the state is going to do as far as funding related to the second year in their biennial budget, which was passed about a year, well, less than a year ago, in the first of the 2 years. A forecast of what we think the county would do, or at least what the superintendent is requesting of the county, or to the board, and then the board can effectively, through the work sessions, direct the superintendent and staff to make changes to the superintendent's proposed budget, and after any changes are made, it becomes the board's proposed budget. And then finally, after the county approves their budget, which will have the county appropriation in it, and after the state finalizes the second year of the biennial budget, we will bring back recommendations to reconcile the board's proposed budget to the actual funding that is available and is required by the state and local budgets. So we'll start with the state. As I shared, this coming year is going to be the second year of the biennial budget. My understanding, the General Assembly will convene in April, and they usually do make some tweaks or changes to the second year of the biennial budget, so we certainly anticipate. But based upon what was written in the long session last year, we estimate we'll receive an increase of about $29.1 million of funding, with the lion's share of that going towards staff compensation. The budget for next year that the state has for classified staff has 3% increases in it, and for teaching staff, it ranges from anywhere from, I think it's in the 7% range, down to just below 3%. The federal funding, as I've said, is perhaps one of the biggest drivers of this budget. As we look back on the pandemic, we received almost $500 million of federal relief. A little bit of that was state funding, but the vast majority was federal. And of that funding, we decided to invest about $35 million into items that recur, mostly staffing. The rest of the funding was invested into non-recurring things. And in the current fiscal year, we were able to repurpose and use additional local funding to shift almost $13 million off the federal funding and now onto local funding. But we still have, for this coming year, another $22.9 million of funding to transition off. And again, the majority of the funding is for staffing, behavioral health support positions, counselors, social workers, school psychologists, school building level substitutes, and the extended care for bus riders, that we initially labeled as the learning lab. That is where we can have formal supervision of students that are waiting on a bus in the afternoon generally, provide snacks to them while they are waiting on a bus. So that's what that is. We're also estimating reductions in 3 areas of what are considered local revenues. They're not part of the county appropriation, though. Indirect cost, which is a percentage that is charged against grants, is coming down by over $3 million, and that is based on we were able to increase those revenues to the district by charging indirect cost against the ESSER and other pandemic relief funds. As those funds are winding down, we no longer have that capacity, and so those revenues will decrease. We see a decrease, and this we hope to be one time. The court systems went to a new software system, unbeknownst to us, and as a result, the processing of bond forfeitures had some hiccups, and so even in the current year, but then into next year, we are anticipating a reduction in fines and forfeiture revenues. And then finally, the board had asked us to look at, and we have included within the proposed budget, a reduction to student parking fees at our high schools. And what's included in the proposal is taking the current fee of $200, which has been in place, I think, for 5 or 6 years at this point, and reducing it to $175. That will reduce revenues, however, by just over $200,000. This next slide I'm going to walk you through a little bit. This is the county appropriation request, and formally the budget is presented to the county commissioners. It's not presented to the state. It's not presented to the federal government, but state law prescribes that the Board of Education submit to the county commissioners no later than May 15th of each year its proposed budget. And the superintendent's proposal includes an increase in county appropriation of $58.3 million over the current year budget. And I do want to point out on the right-hand part of that chart, that is a reconciliation of how that $58 million number becomes $58 million. It's not quite as simple as just adding up all of the funding requests, because there are a lot of different moving parts. For example, on the just prior slide, you had revenues coming down, and so that plays in as well. Tonight, we won't get into detail, but in one of your work sessions, if you would like, we'll be glad to get into the detail of that. And both of these charts are in your budget document as well. The proposed budget also significantly invests fund balance to balance the overall budget to the tune of $32.4 million. And that amount represents 62% of the unassigned fund balance that was available as of June 30th of this past year, the most recent audited financial statements. It is a significant investment. We made similar, albeit smaller, investments at the end of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funding after the Great Recession ended. And so this is part of the bridge of the fiscal transition as well. This will require, if it maintains at above 50%, a waiver of Board Policy 8101. And the board has done that in the past. Some of these you heard Dr. Taylor speak to, so I'm going to go through them quickly just for tonight. But the local budget adjustments or expansion funding requests would fund the permanent building substitute teachers, one at every school. And we are looking at, subsequently, it may not be allotted one at every school. We may reconfigure that allotment formula. Local master's pay for new hires, the board did approve last year reinstating master's pay for teachers who received their master's degree after the state said we're grandfathering everyone who already has a master's or is currently enrolled in a program, but anyone newly hired that attains a master's degree, there is no pay differential. Effective July 1 of this school year, the board has been paying all of our teachers with masters that pay differential. As we hire additional teachers or existing teachers get masters, that pay differential, which is significant, comes with a cost. So this additional funding in this budget is to cover those additional teachers as we continue to hire. The student disposition and well-being category, that $13.8 million being requested is to maintain the existing social worker, school counselor, and school psychologist positions. I do want to add, it doesn't add new positions. It allows us to maintain the ones we've already got. And then under operational effectiveness, the $9.9 million is the amount of local funding that we estimate will be required to implement what the state has legislated for compensation changes in the second year of the biennial budget. The transfer to charter schools, the $9 million figure, of funding being requested is driven by two different things. First, it's driven by the increase in county appropriation. Roughly 10% of every dollar that comes to us in the form of county appropriation goes right back out the door to charter schools. So with a $58 million increase in county appropriation, it's about $5.8 million of that is required to pay charter schools. And we're also seeing in our projected student counts, and the projections are done by Wake County government staff members, Wake County school system staff members, and third-party consultants. Their projections, looking at the number of charter students next year, looking at the number of Wake County students, show a continuing shift of market share. So the other part of that number is driven by that. And then the extended care, formerly known as Learning Labs, line item is so we can maintain that service and support in the coming year. It was funded in the current year using ESSER funds. Just a few other things included in the proposal. We have leases on several of our properties, including the building we're in this evening. And we have insurance premiums that are going up, just as our personal premiums are going up. So the increasing property costs are those two categories, primarily increasing premium costs and lease rate escalation clauses. And again, we can get into detail in one of your work sessions, but we have something called lap salaries, which is when a position is vacant, the funding that was budgeted for that position goes unused. We can use that and create savings, if you will. We know and recognize that we will have vacant positions throughout the year, so we work that into our budget. We actually have positions that are in our district that don't have funding underneath them because we know we will have these lapsed salaries to support them. Our lapsing salaries, though, are on a decline for two reasons. One, our fill rates are going up, which is the good news. And two, we continue to add to the number of restart schools we have, and one of the benefits that the restart schools have, in addition to their charter-like flexibility, we allow the lapsed salaries at those restart schools to be used at the school. So the school can use those, but then they're not available for the district as a whole for savings. So that's what the lapsed salary line item is. And again, we can get into detail in one of your work sessions as desired. The extra duty schedule is now a living schedule, and it's based upon the state beginning pay for teachers. So as that goes up, it requires additional funding to support the extra duty schedule. We have funding included for early college programming. That is mostly to replace state funding that we believe we will not be receiving in the coming years. Slight increase due to student membership changes. I believe there are 3 or 4 positions that are being requested. They are new positions in human resources. We are a human resource driven business. Over 80% of our budget goes to people, employees. $200,000 for 2 magnet programs. And then you'll actually see this last item is reduction. It's a net reduction. The state included in their second year of the biennial budget an increase to our health care costs that the employer pays, but a reduction to the retirement rate. So that nets out to a savings, not a cost. We may see that change with the short session. My prediction is we will see a change. I believe the board's familiar with this chart. One takeaway I'd like to share with you tonight is the federal funding slice of the pie is getting smaller as the ESSER and other pandemic relief funds comes off. I think last year it was, or 2 years ago, it was up around 17, 18%. Now it's drifting back down into what it has been pre-pandemic, into the 8 or 9% range. And the overall superintendent's proposed budget, and I'll say it's the operating budget we're talking about this evening, not the capital budget. The capital budget is what drives the school building program, building new schools, renovating schools, life cycle projects. That budget has a whole separate budget development process that's independent of this operating budget. But it's a $2.2 billion operating budget. And to give you a sense of where that funding is invested, 86% of it goes directly to the schools, and I would posit that you can add 4% of that to that 86%, pushing it to 90%. These numbers, we're told how to account for what categories to put them in by the Department of Public Instruction, and every school district in the state has to follow the same set of rules. But that 4% includes our utilities, includes our maintenance and operations for maintaining our over 200 buildings, our transportation services that we provide to students. So as you can see, the vast majority is going out directly to the schools, and it shows 3% going to charters. I want to note on that, that's 3% of the total budget. But when it's looked at in terms of just the local budget, it's closer to 10%. Charter schools receive their portion of state funding and federal funding directly from the Department of Public Instruction. It's only the local funding that flows from the county to us, and then from us to the charters. So again, for the county appropriation, for every dollar we get, 10 cents of it's going straight back out the door. There are some risks. Anytime we make forecasts or we make assumptions, there's the possibility the assumptions don't play out as anticipated. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I'm going to hit some highlights. There is considered legislation that may come up during the short session that may change the amounts of funds that are due to charter schools, potentially increasing the amount of funding they would receive from school districts. That's a possibility. Child nutrition is an enterprise fund where revenues need to match expenditures. We were able to limit our increase to meal prices to 25 cents in the current year by using fund balance, a separate fund balance that's maintained by child nutrition to cover what would have been another 25-cent increase that Mark Strickland brought to you, I believe, back in May of 2023. So that's on our radar. Talked a little bit about lap salaries. As far as legislative impact, again, it's possible when the legislature comes in for the short session, they may make some decisions that increase the amount of local funding that is required that wouldn't be shown in the superintendent's proposed budget. And the last thing I'll mention to you is the targeted enrollment. What that is, that's an item that we have not in the past had in the operating budget, but we have appropriated fund balance for at the beginning of the year, and even sometimes during the year. And I believe for the current year, the board has approved appropriating just over $7 million. And those are resources that can be pushed out to schools for additional teaching positions or other positions as needed. A large part of the push out is at the beginning of the year when there may be a class size issue and they need an additional teaching position. And that happens more frequently in a multi-track year-round school than in either a single track or a traditional calendar school. So that's what targeted enrollment is. And again, we just have that on our radar. One thing we'll review with you tonight, we made significant progress on, but you will not see in the superintendent's proposed budget for this year, are funding requests directly related to the 4 multi-year priority areas of employee compensation, increasing the number of instructional support technicians, which is even now more important post-pandemic, as we've more or less tripled the number of devices in our schools, increasing behavioral health support positions to a national standard, and increasing our funding for our maintenance and operations staff, again, to a national standard. But looking in the rearview mirror, in recent years, the boards have invested over $60 million, $64.3 million of local funding, additional local funding that's been requested to go towards employee compensation, and that's above and beyond what the state has legislated. And to give you a sense, in 2018-19, our lowest hourly rate employees made $11.58 an hour, and in the current year, that number has grown to now $17 an hour for an entry-level position. Again, all these are in your budget book, so what you're seeing are just snapshots from your actual budget document. 3 other priority areas: instructional support technicians. Over the same years, we've added 34 additional positions. We've added over 2,000 months of employment. Some of those are not all of those are 10-month employees, but if they were 10-month employees, that's over 200 new behavioral support positions. And then over $16 million has been added to the maintenance and operations budget as we work towards those multi-year initiatives. It is our intent in next year's budget, the subsequent year's budget, the 2025-2026 budget, to get back on this schedule as we get to the other side of the fiscal transition. This is just the snapshot of your table of contents at the front end of the book. And the only reason we have it in your slide deck tonight is to point it out as a resource. This book, which you all should have a copy, and for the public, this will be on our website. It should already be there. It'll be there in the superintendent's proposed budget. Once the board approves their proposed budget, that document will be loaded and available to the public. And finally, on the other side of you approving a final budget, that third document will be added. But the table of contents can take a complex document and kind of give you a roadmap, maybe to assist you in going through it. Here's a link again to where you can find the budget document. It's embedded in the PDF that's in Assembly. And again, as I shared, it's on our website. So next steps. Again, as I shared tonight, it's just an information item, not meant to get into the details. And now at this point, the budget begins its transition from the superintendent's proposed budget to the board's discussion, potential direction to the superintendent and staff to make revisions to the budget, and then eventually will become the board's proposed budget that, again, has to be delivered to the county commissioners before May 15th. As you go through the document, you're likely going to have a lot of questions. We'll ask that you direct those questions via email to Ms. Terry Kimsey, who's sitting over there. And I'll get back to Ms. Kimsey in a minute. If you email her your questions, she will gather them all up, farm them out to the most appropriate staff to respond to them. We will present the questions and responses at the beginning of your first board work session. You can continue to ask questions through this entire process that we work through in the coming weeks and literally months, and we'll continue to respond. And we will also post those questions and responses on the website along with the budget documents. In addition, at your work sessions, that's when the board, after staff reviews the board member questions and responses, that's when the board begins its dialogue on potential changes that they want to see made or revisions made. You'll have a work session on April 2nd. You'll have another one 2 weeks later. As needed, the board can schedule as many additional work sessions as needed. And then targeting having the board approve a proposed budget at your first May meeting, which would allow us to still get it to the county by the May 15th deadline. But as needed, the board could schedule a specially called board meeting to approve a budget later, but prior to May 15th, as necessary. So that's what we wanted to share with you tonight. Dr. Taylor, I'm not sure if you want to add anything as I conclude.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Nader, and I think you covered everything that we needed to share, and so we will end with the presentation there.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Now, we did see that there was a whole procedure for question and answer. This is the earliest we've gotten a superintendent's proposed budget in my memory. So I know that we're going to have a lot of time for questions and discussion and for research. So I don't want to get into anything substantive, but if you have a procedural question or a question about timeline.
Just so people know, it's wpcss.net/budget, because it didn't give that link in the presentation. It just sent you to the home page. But if you do /budget, you will find it there.
And we'll get that. Thank you, Mr. Hershey. We'll get that updated.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Thank you, Mr. Nieder, and thank you, Superintendent Taylor.
Thank you.
All right. So now we move into our public comments section. Speakers commenting on the night's agenda will be heard before speakers commenting on other topics. All other speakers will be heard in order of sign-up. Only the person speaking at the podium will be able to stand. Again, all attendees that are not speaking are to remain seated. Now, if you have to leave, the room, please don't remain in the building, as only this room is open after hours. The rest of the building is closed. If the public comment portion of the agenda exceeds 30 minutes, board policy states the board chair reserves the right to conduct other board business after inviting the remaining speakers to the podium. Members of the public are welcome to offer comments or criticism directed at substantive ideas, actions, or procedures of the board and of individual board members. Laws and policies of North Carolina provide that issues or concerns involving individual personnel or individual student matters are confidential and therefore not appropriate for the public comment setting. Those offering comments to the board, including students, may discuss issues and matters of general concern. Concerns related to personnel issues or student matters can be addressed, but they have to be addressed through applicable WCPSS personnel, through the grievance policy, or other applicable policies. In the interest of maintaining civility and decorum, speakers are encouraged to address their comments to the Board of Education and must refrain from personal attacks and insults directed at the board, individual board members, staff, and most importantly, members of the public. Please, remain at the podium during your speaking time. Address your comments forward to the board. Any materials you wish to address or you wish to share with the board, please give them to our board attorney, Mr. Malone, who's sitting here at the end of the table. They will be distributed to the board members, and they will be made part of the public record. During public comment, you may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please note that the microphones are adjustable. When you begin, the green light at the podium will illuminate, showing that your 3 minutes has begun. A yellow light will light up along with an audible tone when there are 30 seconds remaining. When your time has expired, you will see a red light, and you will hear another audible tone. When your time is up, the next speaker will be called to the podium. Speakers are asked to respect the time limit and speak for no more than 3 minutes, and you may choose to speak for less time. So we will turn it over to our list of public comment speakers tonight. As has been our recent practice, we will allow our students who are here to speak first and have priority. So our first speaker will be Parthavi Joshi, followed by Gabriella Titus. Good evening.
Good evening. Sorry, let me just get set. Okay. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Parthavi Joshi, and I'm a junior at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. And we, my other students sitting in the back, are back again to present our case. In the months since we last spoke, St. Augustine University has officially lost its accreditation. It is currently pursuing legal action against SAC SOS, but with $7.9 million owed to the IRS, it is hard to imagine what will come of that. Today, we learned that SAU is moving completely virtual in 2 weeks on April 1st for what we assume to be cost-saving measures. So, we have lost. We have officially lost stability, and our hope is dripping down the drain. What little hope we have is rested on your hands, and to give us back what we lost and what we deserve. Today, you will hear from 4 more of my peers, some familiar faces, some new. They will talk about the questions that still sit heavy in our minds. We will talk about the insufficiency of the information provided and the plans to save our school. We truly appreciate your time and attention through the rest of our speeches. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gabriella Titus, followed by Elizabeth Bellica.
Hi, just for reasons of order, I'm going first instead of Gabriella.
Then state your name for us.
My name is Elizabeth Bellica.
Thank you.
Good evening to the members of the board. As I stated, I'm Elizabeth Bellica, and I'm also a junior at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak to you again on behalf of my classmates. Thank you for your continued attention and concern surrounding the future of Wake Young Women's and Men's Leadership Academy. In light of the situation at St. Augustine's University, we understand that Wake Tech classes may be our only option if we decide to continue at Waiwala for our senior year. We know that you have made a decision based on your knowledge of each option's offerings and your perspectives on the problems that we will be facing. However, many Waiwala and Waimala students remain in the dark about what benefits an education at Wake Tech could offer us, especially in comparison to what we were promised from St. Aug's University. We have been told that by transferring to Wake Tech, we would become a college and career promise school, and we have not been given an explanation as to how that would affect our opportunities and available classes in comparison to what we would have had as a school in the Cooperative and Innovative Schools program. Many students have expressed concerns as to a possible need to choose a concentration which may not align with their career goals. We are also worrying if our credits would be able to transfer out of state or even out of the UNC system, like they would have at St. Augustine's. We as students, as one of the most affected parties in this situation, don't have a clear understanding of how your decisions will shape our future. If this is the only solution, the Wake Leadership early college students and families deserve timely, clear, and accurate information about what our early college program would look like at Wake Tech. We respect your decision, but we hope that you will give us information that we need to decide where to spend our senior year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will go back to Gabriella Titus, followed by Blair Miller.
All right. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Gabriella Titus, and I'm a junior at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. Here with my peers, we want to let you know that we are not here to simply complain. We do not believe that taking virtual classes at Wake Tech is an adequate solution, but that transferring us to another 4-year university is the only sufficient solution. When we first joined the school, we signed up to work. We forfeited a traditional school experience from the time that we were 11 years old, but we did it for the promises included in the early college program. The promise that we'd be able to earn college credits that would transfer to the school of our choice. The promise that we would have to cram, the promise that even though we'd have to cram all but 4 of our high school credits into 2 years, it would be worth it because the other 2 years would be used to accumulate college credits that would offset the cost of tuition for our college of choice. The promise that we would gain these credits while experiencing life on a college campus. And the promise that we would finish our time here, our transcript will say that we graduated from an early college school.
Now, due to the oversight of the previous warning signs of our partnership with St. Augustine's University and the lack of planning for foreseeable fallout we're experiencing right now, this promise has been distorted, and we need to resort to frantically finding a sufficient solution. The fallout of this not only threatens us, the current juniors of Wickham Women's Leadership Academy, it also affects the sophomores, the freshmen, and the entire established plan of our early college since our first group of juniors in 2014. As said before, the only plan that we have been made aware of that has been proposed is to take virtual classes at Wake Technical Community College. We do not wish to look down upon Wake Tech as it is an esteemed community college within Wake County. However, we deserve to be in a program we signed up for, with the only adequate solution to this devastating issue being a partnership with the Ford University by the fall, not a scrap-together solution of what we were once promised. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Blair Miller, who will be followed by Iman Nazir.
Good evening. My name is Blair Miller, and I am a junior at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. Regarding this possible solution, we've been told that there's red tape prohibiting it from becoming a possibility. We've been told that there is a 1-year minimum time period to transfer us to a new 4-year, that this time is mandated in order to provide time for multiple bodies, including the school board, to communicate and work together to jump through the hoops required to get us from point A to point B. What we fail to understand is why this process cannot be expedited. The reason we are in this situation is because there was no contingency plan made when St. Augustine's first became at risk of losing their accreditation, or when the university failed to adequately communicate with the board on multiple occasions. It was only after we were already attending classes at an unaccredited college that any attention was paid to the matter. But for months, we felt stranded. So now, this time around, we are pleading with you to fight for us, to fix the problem that never had to exist in the first place, and please try to expedite this process. We begin our senior year in 5 months. We are begging you to use this time more effectively than the last 14. Governor Roy Cooper named 2024 the year of NC Public Schools. We need multiple levels of the board and legislature to work together to adequately resolve this problem and help us believe this promise.
Prioritize our education and fulfill the commitments made to us. We have 141 days until the start of our senior year, and every day counts towards finding a resolution and expediting the process that ensures our future success. The trust of us students and our community is in the air, and it is up to you all, the board, to prove us wrong and to earn back that trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Miguel Figueres, followed by Rowan Bilodeau. Good evening.
Good evening. I would like to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Mike Figueres. I'm the father of 4 children who are products of the public school system. And 3 of them have received an associate's degree through the early college programs. My wife and I have gone through public school system as well, and we are grateful for everyone who's poured into us and made a positive difference in our lives. As a parent organizer for Education Justice Alliance, I advocate for the civic engagement practices at a grassroots level. I seek to engage impacted people to achieve a relationship-centered public school system that truly values parents and students as decision makers and active agents of change. If you look around you, you see these are parents and young people here today who are not only part of EJA, but they help guide the organization. We speak to you today regarding the proposed budget and ask you to move funds from law enforcement to investing in support staff, such as school psychologists, mental health therapists, school counselors, more nurses, and other support staff. I ask that you not just go through the motions when allocating budget funds, but to think outside the box as well. Prevention should be the most important factor regarding issues in which SROs are called. How can we prevent this from happening should be the first questions asked, not what disciplinary action should be taken. If there were support staff in place, we could lower referral percentages and wouldn't have the need for SROs, which clearly discriminates against black and brown students, according to the data. One way to pay for the support staff is to not allow the voucher program to defund our public schools. North Carolina legislators owe us millions to the community for betterment of our public schools through the Leandro case verdict. People need to hear about this injustice. People need to hear your voice regarding the injustice. We ask you to fight for these funds to give our children fully funded schools. I just gave you 2 answers to help with all the budget costs. Fully funded schools that give the students the opportunity to excel and to strive in whatever career they choose. Fully funded schools where what are our kids going to eat for lunch doesn't exist. Schools where when you're going through a rough time in your life as a student, you can go speak to a support staff for help before anything happens. It can be done. It can become a reality. The North Carolina Supreme Court said that the Leandro money is owed to us, so find a way. It's not our job to figure out how to make it work. It's yours. And I believe you can do this if you really wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rowan Bilodeau, followed by April Miller.
Good evening, Board. I touched on this a bit last week, but I want to elaborate on it more today. March 31st, next Sunday, is Transgender Day of Visibility. Although I'm sure one can infer what this day is, I'll define it just in case. Trans Day of Visibility is a day that honors and celebrates transgender people in our communities, letting them know that they're loved, respected, appreciated, seen, and heard. Maybe you have a trans coworker, a student, a classmate, a teacher, a friend, a family member, or even yourself. And if you show them love every day, you really should show them appreciation on the 31st as well. I know I like it when people know that I'm trans and put an effort to be more supportive and understand. Being trans is hard and isolating. I feel like nobody cares and nobody really listens, and the people who should, even the people who should, because they're making decisions that would impact me and the whole trans community. I feel like the majority of the world, the country, the state, and even of the people in this room don't want to hear me talk about this issue or hear me talk in general. And to be honest, I wish I didn't have to, but here I am. Just like there shouldn't be one day out of 365 that's set aside for commemorating trans people, because it should be every day, I shouldn't have to pause my silly teenager life to come here and ask a room full of grown adults to please see me, to please see my trans peers, to please acknowledge us, support us, let us know we belong, let us feel like we belong. I wish you could do that every day. I wish there wasn't a law that said you can't legally acknowledge a whole demographic of students, leaving them feeling like outsiders, like burdens, like mistakes. I wish my teachers could see me being harassed specifically for being transgender and they could say something. I wish I could just be. I wish we could all just be and be in peace, which is unfortunately too big of an ask. So I'll ask for something smaller. I'll ask that you please acknowledge this day. Please acknowledge the trans students in the district. Please, for one day, let us feel seen and loved. We exist in the world, in the country, in the state, in the school district. And I know that there's at least one in this room. And I think for one single day, it'd be okay to recognize that existence. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is April Miller, who will be followed by Catherine Rodriguez. Good evening.
Good evening, honorable board members and Superintendent Dr. Taylor. My name is April Miller, and I'm the mother of a junior and a senior at Wake Young Women's Leadership Academy. Both daughters are currently taking classes at St. Augustine University. First, I want to commend you and your predecessors for the flexible thinking and determination that provided Wake County with early college programs. Someone did the hard work to forge this model and provide this amazing opportunity. Someone went above and beyond the status quo so students could invest early in their higher education. And for that, we say thank you. To match your efforts in creating a fantastic program, you have attracted an amazing group of young men and young women willing to go above and beyond. These students sacrificed being part of a traditional high school experience full of the customary activities and extracurricular options in order to focus on their academics while gleaning skills to become strong leaders through their respective leadership academies. You've done good, so please keep going. St. Aug's challenged accreditation issues have been public knowledge for years. When I inquired about the issue, in the fall of 2022, I was told by parents and a staff member, it's fine. They always work it out. My assumption then was that the taxpayer money used to fund this program and the future of these Wake County students was safe under the oversight of someone with the Wake County public school system. Well, we know now that someone did not sound the alarm. Action was not taken. Even with all the foreknowledge of the issues, there was no contingency plan. We are here to say the discontinuation of the early college program, even for a year, is unacceptable. Instead of punishing students by stripping them of their early college opportunity, we are asking you to work with the local and state leaders to expedite the transition of the early college program to another four-year university for the fall of 2024. We already have the allocated funding, an amazing staff of administrators and teachers, and the students. As my daughter said earlier, even Governor Cooper has declared 2024 the year of public education. We are asking that you work with DPI and the legislature to go above and beyond with these kids to get them on a four-year college campus and to not take no for an answer. These kids were willing to go above and beyond with rigorous and accelerated classes for the promise of attending a four-year college. They kept their end of the deal. They worked their tails off. Personally, I just learned today that due to St. Aug's ongoing issues, my senior will now end her high school career the way she started it, in online classes. Please do not tell these juniors that they will spend their senior year on screens or pushed into an alternative program
Thank
that
you.
limits or defrauds their promise.
The next
Thank you.
speaker is Ms. Catherine Rodriguez, followed by Christina Spears. All right, good evening.
I'm sorry. I'm here to talk about the gun resolution, but that was amazing by all of those students. Their parents should be so proud of them, so I hope that you can help them. But I'm very excited to be here to support safe gun storage. This is a bipartisan issue. Regardless of what the politicians and special interests may say, none of us want to experience the pain that the families of Sandy Hook, Uvalde, or Parkland have endured. As a country that proudly upholds our Second Amendment rights, it's crucial that we ensure the safety of our children around the guns in our homes. Despite our best efforts, children do not always listen to their parents. It only takes one moment of curiosity, anger, or sadness to encourage a child to reach for an unsecured gun. It could be an elementary school child who wants to show off to his friends, or a middle schooler who's depressed, or a high schooler that seeks revenge. If guns in our homes are not secured, this puts all children and the lives of those around them at risk. I urge all parents to normalize the practice of asking about safe gun storage in the homes their children will visit. This is not a Democrat or a Republican issue. It's about safety. Let us not fall into the trap of those who try to divide us. We all share the same desire for healthy and safe children in schools. I want to thank all of you for this resolution, but I want to especially thank Cheryl and Wing for not falling for the message of division and putting children first. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christina Spears, followed by Aubrey DeOrio. Good evening.
Good evening. The kids are all right, and their parents too. Good evening, Dr. Taylor, Chair Haggerty, Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler, board members, district staff. I'm Christina Spears, a Wake County special education teacher by trade, currently serving as the Wake NCAE president. The ESSER transition is finally here. We appreciate Dr. Taylor, staff, and the board doing their due diligence to prepare for this budget transition and consider the incredible impact of losing support positions would have on our schools and students. About $22 million needed to keep those positions, including building subs, are vital with our growing number of vacancies. I've been asked what is Wake NCAE's priority in this budget cycle with such considerations like the ESSER transition, legislative impacts, and new schools. We understand it takes money to keep the lights on, as Dr. Taylor has told me, to describe those regular facilities and maintenance needs. But our priorities have not changed, and I want to make them crystal clear here tonight. It's not your budget hearing, but it's ours. We're asking that you commit to the previously proposed multi-year plan. Do what you said you were going to do and increase the local supplement for all staff, being 4.5% for certified staff and 4% for non-certified staff. We also ask that you include pay for coverage for staff covering classes due to vacancy as part of that extra duty line item in this proposed budget. I'm really, really proud to deliver 2,910 petition signatures from 84 Wake County work sites this evening. Nearly 3,000 of us decided to unite together through our organizing work of our Public School Workers Union to let this team of 10 know what our priorities are. This petition delivery is historic, and it's a result of over 100 leaders collecting signatures from their coworkers by talking to them about what matters most to them. We know you recognize the need for increased compensation to recruit and retain highly qualified staff. And as a reminder, we also know fully funded, fully staffed buildings impact student safety. Staff compensation has been a written priority in multiple places, last year's proposal and vote, last month's board retreat presentation, and is the first priority written in today's proposal, but increasing the local supplement is not included. A budget is a living, breathing document that reflects the values of an organization. It's time to uphold the promise of prioritizing employee compensation and move forward with the multi-year plan. If you can show public school workers a budget that values our needs and the needs of students, then we will show up together to the County Commission budget hearings to fight for a fully funded budget. Our coworkers are highly motivated to unite toward a fully funded budget that keeps its promise. Fund the local increase for all staff so that we can bring a united front to the County Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Aubrey DeOrio, followed by Lisa Ashworth. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair Haggerty, Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler, board members, hello Superintendent Dr. Taylor, and district staff. I'm Aubrey DeOrio, a STEM teacher at Turner Creek Elementary School and a Cary resident. I'm here as a proud NCAE union member to let you know that our school staff needs an increase in pay. We know the bulk of our salaries comes from the budget by the NC General Assembly, but you can support an increase to our county supplement. You have supported employees of Wake County Public Schools because you are exploring bi-monthly pay for our classified staff, and they need it. You have taken our needs into consideration when planning for the ESSER funds. You've given bonuses and more. We all knew there would be a transition away from the ESSER funds, but we still need to maintain SEL personnel, support positions, and building substitutes. As inflation continues to impact our rents and mortgages, grocery bills, gas, and providing for other needs of our families, we need pay increases to lessen the load on school staff. Many of my coworkers have 2 and 3 jobs just to be able to afford the basics for themselves and their families. A close friend left the profession last year because she needed to make a decision between a second job or 1 job to pay her bills. Another coworker couldn't be here with me tonight because of her second job. I recently filled out the teacher working conditions survey. I love my school, the staff, the administration, the families, the community, everything about it. I can't see myself working anywhere else. I made sure that that was reflected in my responses. But the one thing they don't ask us on that survey is about our wages. At my school, our main role of educating students is protected within the building, but our paychecks don't support our bank accounts and bills. If we want high-quality educators working in our public schools with our Wake County children, then we need to pay employees a wage that allows them to focus on their main job of caring for and educating students. I'm currently working on a legacy project with our 5th grade students. When asked what they think will leave a positive impact on their school community, a group responded that all teachers need to get a raise. Our students already know what's needed to leave a positive impact on our schools, and I know that you do too. Do what you promised by including increased wages, as stated in the multi-year plan, in your budget to the county commissioners. I'm here with my Wake NCAE siblings to tell you that we have a petition with nearly 3,000 signatures from staff across WCPSS demanding a 4.5% increase to our salary supplement for certified staff, a minimum overall increase of 4%, and $18 minimum wage while continuing the 25-cent step differential and 40-cent grade differential for our classified staff. We need a plan for pay for coverage because more work deserves more wages. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Tuttle. I'm sorry, our next speaker is Lisa Ashworth. Lisa Ashworth, then Chris Tuttle. Sorry to get you out of order there. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Taylor, Chairman Hagerty, and members of the school board. I am Lisa Ashworth, and I am currently a middle school AIG and intervention teacher at Dillard Drive Magnet Middle School, and a very proud member of Wake NCAE, our public school union. This is my 25th year of teaching, and I'm proud to say that I received my middle and high school education from Wake County Public Schools. However, I'm here to tell you a story, just a very short one, that in the last 6 years that I've been employed by this district and teaching here in Wake County Public Schools, I have witnessed multiple people leaving the profession, beginning of year, mid-year, end of the year, and it's very disheartening to me because I, had never thought about this in my commitment. I have recently witnessed in the last 3 years 5 teachers who left our school system to work for educational resource companies simply because their teacher pay couldn't cut it to pay their bills, and their pay was significantly higher than their teacher pay. 3 of these teachers were recognized as first-year teachers of the year at their schools, and they were a tremendous asset to their students and colleagues. The current WCPSS strategic plan goals that were approved earlier this school year include 4 essential pillars to this plan. They include high-quality instructional core, equity-focused practices, family and community engagement, and high-quality WCPSS staff. Along with these pillars are 7 core beliefs that show the most important values of your plan. One of these core beliefs is a well-supported staff. There is a strong connection between having a high-quality staff and a well-supported staff. They definitely go hand in hand in achieving the mission of this district to provide a relevant and engaging education where students are prepared to lead and be successful in our ever-changing society. My principal, Margaret Feldman, does an amazing job of consistently supporting our school staff by encouraging us to be the best versions of ourselves as educators while helping to find the best resources for our students. I feel supported and encouraged by my entire admin team. Unfortunately, though, principals don't have the power nor the resources to provide the strongest support that educators truly need. This is an equitable and sustainable compensation to ensure their well-being and retention. Last year, you as the leaders of our district said you were going to increase staff supplements as part of your multi-year plan. Sadly, we will continue to lose strong educators every day in this district if our school staff salaries do not increase. I realize you have no ability to change the state compensation, and we are 46th in the nation at the bottom in salaries. But you as the leaders have a chance.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Tuttle, followed by Chrissy Sims.
Says 2 seconds.
I heard the tone, I called it. I don't know what the 2 seconds up there is.
Good evening, Dr. Taylor and board members. My name is Chris Tuttle, and I am a librarian at South Garner High School and a proud NCAE member. Tonight, I stand in solidarity with certified and classified staff across our district and demand increased wages for all Wake staff, allocating funds to pay staff for more wages for more work, and for you to do what you said you were going to do, include local supplement raises from the multi-year plan. In 2022 and 2023, CNBC ranked North Carolina as America's top state for business. In contrast, North Carolina ranks close to the bottom in our nation for teacher pay. I polled the staff at my school asking if they had to take a side hustle to make ends meet. I couldn't possibly share all the responses in my allotted time, so here are just a few. I do customer service in the evenings. I tutor, sell insurance, complete taxes, and write resumes. I coach, tutor, dog sit, and drive Uber. I work a fireworks tent in the summer, coach, and do home hospital. I do DoorDash and Instacart. I coach 7 soccer teams and run a pet sitting business. I do Amazon delivery. I wait tables and work as a teacher at Wine and Design. I sell custom t-shirts and gifts. I cut hair at Sports Clips on the weekends. And just today, my co-librarian resigned. While she loves her position, she can't pay her bills. She was left with no choice but to leave Wake and education for a higher paying salary. In spite of our dismal ranking in teacher pay and the additional burden of second and third jobs to make ends meet, our teachers and staff still succeed in Wake's mission of significantly increasing achievement for all students by providing a world-class education. According to the Wake County Economic Development website, Wake County is ranked #1 nationwide in gold standard teachers. I hope you see the irony here. Wake schools are used as part of the marketing strategy by the Wake County Economic Development for attracting businesses to our area. Yet the majority of certified and classified staff have second and third jobs to make ends meet. As one of the largest employers in Wake County, we must stand together and demand increased wages. I recently watched the film Cabrini, and I leave you with the final line of the movie. What kind of world do we want, and what are we willing to do to achieve it? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chrissy Sims, followed by Cindy Tombin. Hey, Chrissy, good evening.
Thank you.
Long time no see.
Good evening, Superintendent Taylor, school board members, and concerned citizens. I am Chrissy Sims, mother of 3 children and a passionate Be Smart volunteer. Before I proceed, I would like to say a heartfelt thanks to all of you for passing this safe storage resolution. The Be Smart campaign is singularly focused on safe firearm storage and keeping unsecured guns away from children. It is non-political, non-partisan, and endorsed by gun owners and non-gun owners alike. I know many of you have seen the Be Smart presentation, but I will touch on a few points that I think are worthy of mentioning again. As mentioned in the resolution, 4.6 million children in the United States live in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. Many of these children actually know where that gun is stored. It is always an adult's responsibility to prevent unauthorized access to guns, not a curious child's responsibility to avoid guns. On our website, besmartforkids.org, there are a lot of resources, and there are 2 handouts in particular that I would like to briefly mention. One is titled Talking to Your Children About Guns, and it lists some appropriate talking tips for a variety of different age groups. This is a precaution, not a guarantee. The other handout that has become mainstream is asking about secure gun storage at friends' and families' homes where your children frequent. This particular handout lists sample texts and email conversations that can help navigate a sometimes difficult conversation. There are also sample conversations for teenage babysitters that are going into strangers' homes. It is also hard to overstate the role unsecured guns play in suicide. A compulsive teenager coming home from a bad day at school knowing there's an unsecured gun can lead to fatal consequences. Just yesterday, NBC News came out with an article and statistics on children being unintentionally shot and killed. Nearly once a day, a child gets their hands on a loaded gun and shoots themselves or someone else. Last year, 2023, had the highest number of unintentional shootings for children under 18, resulting in 411 incidences of deaths and some involving multiple victims. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cindy Tombin, who will be followed by Melanie Harris. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Cindy Tomlin, and I'm the mother of a rising senior at the Leadership Academies. And I'm here tonight to urge you to take action on the current situation at St. Augustine's University and let families know what the plans are for next year. It's been over 15 months since St. Aug's was placed on probation, 3 months since their accreditation was revoked, and you have yet to take any actions to provide families with solutions. In the work session today, you discussed academic calendars for all of the other schools in the district, including 2 years from now for most schools. But we don't know where our kids are going to be attending classes in 2 weeks when St. Augustine's closes their doors to students. I know it only affects about 150 students who take classes at St. Augustine's University, but they're just as important as these other kids that you're making plans for 2 years from now. It's time to prioritize the plans for the 24-25 school year for these kids. Registration for fall semester classes at Wake Tech and the other area colleges and universities opens soon if it hasn't already. Our students need to have the option to enroll in these classes because they fill up and because they have taken all the courses offered through their high school with the assumption they would be taking college classes. For students who wish to attend the CCP program at Wake Tech and have submitted applications 3 weeks ago, Wake Tech can't process those applications because the principals have been directed by central service staff not to provide approvals for them to attend that program. Most of the transfer requests that have been made, we had to submit prior to knowing what our plans are for next year, and they've been summarily denied from staff. We have the opportunity to request that you can reconsider those, but we have to submit those within 10 days. And we still don't know what our other options are. For the students who are athletes, their only option if they can't live with whatever solution you provide is brought in high school, because any other schools they want to transfer, NCHSAA will not let them participate in athletics for 365 days. It's just time to make a decision. Let's move forward, whatever that decision is. And as you think about the calendars, we start school in 5 months. We don't know where. We don't know when. If you choose not to continue as a cooperative, innovative high school, most of these students will be taking the majority of their classes probably at Wake Tech through the CCP program, and they're going to need a hybrid calendar that if it's no longer exempt from the calendar law, it's got to follow the calendar laws, but it also has to be a hybrid that considers the school breaks at Wake Tech or wherever they're going to take classes. And we need that calendar. We need y'all to make a decision and move forward. I also want to thank Mr. Hershey. He's been great with meeting with us and listening to the parents' concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melanie Harris, who will be followed by Elliot Brody. Good evening, Ms. Harris.
Good evening, and I appreciate you guys offering me the opportunity to give comment. Me and my transportation family have been here ever since the beginning of the school year, and I stand here as a 12-year veteran of Wake County Public Schools in transportation, and as a parent, and as a proud NCAE member. But what I want to talk to you guys tonight is about bus drivers getting paid bi-weekly. Not just bus drivers, but all ESPs. And the reason being is because coming back from the summer, especially if you're a 10-month driver, it is extremely hard, which you guys already know because you've heard the stories. Wake County Public School is a wonderful school system to work for. However, and that is a big however, we need some straightening. So what does that mean? That means that you guys got to pay your employees more frequently. You guys are losing great staff to Amazon, Amazon, UPS, FedEx, and the list goes on and on. Y'all pay for people to get these classes, they get their CDLs, and then they're out the door. I have seen so many bus drivers walk off the job and just turn their keys in because they cannot afford to feed their families. Me, I'm a single mother of 3. If I go and take a second job, that means I won't be able to take my daughter to her karate practices. I won't be able to see my son play football at Southeast Raleigh High School. And I won't be able to let my 13-year-old son, who's a student at Oberlin, even try out for a sport because I'm going to have to run from one place to the other. So what I'm asking is, can you guys find a way to make this happen? You have the ability to do it, because if you don't, we will not have any transportation staff at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Elliot Brody, followed by Melanie Motterset.
Good evening, school board. Good evening, Dr. Taylor. I'm Elliot Brody, he, him pronouns. I'm a school counselor at Banks Road Elementary, located in your southern region, right smack dab on that Fuquay-Raleigh line. I stand in front of you today as a proud Wake NCAE union member, representing 100% of my staff, 92 coworkers, some of who have joined me today to demonstrate our solidarity. Every one of us has signed this petition asking for the board to prioritize raises and wages in our pay in the budget decisions this spring and with every opportunity you get thereafter. I speak to you now sharing my truths from a place of deep respect and concern. We are passionate professionals. You speak of safe schools. Think of having highly qualified educators in every classroom. Think about the IAs, the CNS workers, the support staff, getting what they need in order to grow the relationships and grow our students and their futures. This month marks 4 years since we shut down our building to endure a pandemic. I pause to ask the board, how are things different since then? We took the return from COVID as an opportunity to do better, but the adversity has been higher than ever. Bus driver shortages leading to longer days. Substitute teacher shortages leading to covering classes and absorbing kids. Teachers out sick leading to missed instruction. Student services overwhelmed. Administrators having to take extra duties. People feeling burnt out. And many of my colleagues leaving their calling for something that could pay the bills. The reality still exists today. We feel overworked, underpaid, and we're tired. In 2022, Banks Road explored and learned a new way of school culture and discipline. We adopted restorative practice model. We were trained and coached by Wake County Public Schools Restorative Practices team, which has since been dismantled due to the lack of funding and a return to the status quo. Restorative justice is based in indigenous teachings, and it has a core belief that we should treat everyone with respect, dignity, and mutual concern. We are all profoundly interconnected. That is why I stand here today with my union family to ask the board to treat us with respect, dignity, and mutual concern by listening to us when we say we need living wages for all. Do what you said you were going to do and include increased local supplement wages in this multi-year plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melanie Motterset, who will be followed by Emily Hooks.
Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Taylor. My name is Melanie Motterset, and I'm a parent, an educator, and a Be Smart volunteer. Be Smart is a public education campaign geared at keeping kids safe from intentional and unintentional gun violence by encouraging all gun owners to secure their guns. I began volunteering with the Be Smart program after 17 people were killed in 2018 at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. But my experience with school shootings traces back to when I was a senior in high school and watched on TV the terror at Columbine High School. But at the end of the day, it's not just school shootings that keep me up at night. What weighs on my mind is the fact that guns are the leading cause of death of kids in this country. In fact, every year, nearly 4,000 kids are shot and killed, and 15,000 more are shot and injured. Sadly, North Carolina is leading the way, with kids 51% more likely to die from a gun than the national average. Just this week, a second grader was shot and killed in Chadbourne, North Carolina. So what can we do about this? First off, adults, lock up your guns. Kids are getting their hands on unsecured guns at their home, at friends' homes, and stealing guns from unlocked cars. Lisa Luton, Chief Communications Officer, reported that families that have been debriefed after a gun incident at school often didn't expect that their kid knew how to access their unsecured gun, except they did, and then they brought it to school to show it off. School board members, we all know that our job as educators extends way beyond the bounds of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Maslow's hierarchy of needs has safety just above the need for food and water. If our kids are not feeling safe because they are dealing with the trauma from gun violence, trauma from losing a classmate to gun violence, or trauma from hearing about a kid with a gun in the next classroom, there is absolutely no way they can learn. The bottom line, school safety begins at home and in our community. And I want to thank the school board for passing the Safer Gun Storage Resolution. We must act now and educate the adults in our community. Adults, at all times, keep your guns locked, unloaded, and with ammunition stored separately. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emily Hooks, followed by Serena Johnson.
Hey, good evening. My name is Emily Hooks, and I am a proud Wake NCAE member. I also work at West Cary, so my face might seem familiar from last year when I advocated for our school. So I want to talk to you about a few things. I'm a little concerned with the budget that was proposed earlier. I didn't see the 4.5% like we were promised for the next few years. And so it kind of has actually changed what I wanted to say. I work 3 jobs. And tonight I am not able to work one of those jobs. So therefore I'm losing some money that pays my bills. Because I needed to be here to speak about being paid. I thought we were going to get the 4.5%. And I didn't see it. But maybe I just misunderstood. And if it's not on there, I need you guys to put it on there. So when you guys have those discussions with each other, please take everything that we said into consideration and put it back in the budget. When I work my 3 jobs, I leave my house around 6:30 a.m. I do not get home until 9 p.m. each night. That's a lot of strain for me in my 30s. I don't know if I can maintain that in my 40s, 50s, and 60s. I plan on working for Wake County my entire school career. I don't see myself leaving. I just don't know if I can maintain what I'm currently doing as I get older. So with that said, I really, really need you guys to put the 4.5% back on the budget if it's not already there. I also need you to pay us for coverage, because when I'm asked to go cover a class, I therefore can't PLC, I can't plan, I can't grade. So when do I do it? When I get home at 9 o'clock at night. So when do I sleep? I don't know. So then I'm tired, and it's just like this big cycle, and it's really, really putting a strain on me. Again, I want to stay dedicated to you guys. I need you to stay dedicated to us. So please, please put it back in the budget if it's not there. Again, I might have misunderstood. I really hope it's there. The next thing I wanted to talk about is this. I will fight for you guys at the county commissioner level. I will go at whatever you guys put up there, as long as you put up what I'm asking. I will go to the county commissioner. I will say you need to give what our school board is asking for, because you're asking for the right thing. You're asking for us to be paid as professionals. You're asking us to be there for our children, and that's our number one priority. So if you don't ask, they can't give. So you got to ask for it. You got to put it on there. Okay? Because then I can take it up to the next level, and then I can take it further after that.
and I want to be in your corner. Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker is Serena Johnson, who will be followed by Erica Drapeau.
Hello, Board and Superintendent. My name is Serena Johnson. I'm a parent of Wake County Public Schools kids, and I'm also a parent organizer with Education Justice Alliance. And we're all sitting here with the youth program and the parent program. And what I wanted to speak on is a number of things, and everyone has kind of touched on it. But one main thing that we haven't been discussing is language barrier. We have families here that speak Spanish, and they're here attending the meeting because we asked them to come, and some have no idea what we're talking about and going to have to get a rebrief afterwards about what's going on in the meeting. So that's something that we have asked for years now. How can we support families who do not speak English as a first language? And how uncomfortable it has to be sitting in a room listening to someone speak a language you don't speak and you don't understand. And I also want to speak on the budget. I also attend facility meetings for Wake County. And I know this is I didn't know it was separate from the funds until today, as far as the budget is concerned. And I'm concerned as well about the budget. And how can we allocate over $2 million for snacks for kids who are waiting for buses, but not pay the bus drivers more money with that $2 million? I'm a little taken aback as what was the thought process and setting aside over $2 million for snacks instead of money for the drivers. And I also want to speak on the teachers. It's how can we get a quality education for our kids? I have a daughter who has cerebral palsy. I have a daughter who has ADHD. I have a son who has emotional stuff going on. And how can they get the services that they need within the school system if the teachers are not being paid? How can you adequately educate a child when you're exhausted? And how can you say you're going to do something and don't follow through? And I just want everyone in the room to know that there's voting coming up May, and we need to know how these seats are filled, and if they're not following through with their promises, get them out. It's as simple as that. Get them out the seats. And I want to thank you all for the things that you have addressed that we speak to the school board members on. We try to get in contact with them. We haven't met with you, Mrs. Caulfield. We have requested to meet with you to discuss things what's happening within the school system. This is a non-bipartisan seat, and although you may not believe in what we believe in, we are still going to support all students in Wake County, and we would like to see you in a meeting to discuss those topics. And I also want to address, since I only have 30 seconds left, overall picture of what Wake County is letting out on how our education system is so supported. When we have CAP schools in western Wake County who have limited classrooms to serve kids, smaller classrooms, but then on the other side of town, they're overflowing. What's happening with those funds for those CAP schools, for those schools who are getting overwhelmed with students that's in the classroom? What are we doing to address these schools? How are we doing this? It seems like segregation is what it looks like to me. What are we doing to address these topics? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Erica Drapeau, followed by Daniel Grant King. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, school board. Good evening, Dr. Taylor. My name is Erica Drapeau. I'm a ready-to-learn teacher at Vandora Springs Elementary. I live in Garner, and I'm a proud NCAE member. Growing up, I wanted to follow in my mother's footsteps and become a public school teacher. She spent over 35 years of her life dedicated to her students and her community. I am now in my 24th year of teaching, just a handful of years away from my own retirement. But there was a time in my career when I truly wasn't sure if I'd be able to stay in the profession I loved. For the first part of my career, I was a single person struggling to afford the basics of life on my teacher's income. During those years, I had to work a second job. Each day I would put in a full, and I mean full day, in a kindergarten classroom, only to rush home, change into my waitressing clothes, and head back to my second job. I still look back and wonder, how did I make it through those years? Several years into that exhausting pace, I met my spouse. With 2 incomes, now I no longer needed my second job, and I could stay in teaching. But many other public school staff have not been able to stay in the profession they love. They have had to make the tough decision to leave their career because they simply cannot afford it. This was the case for my very dear friend and former kindergarten teacher with the Wake County Public Schools. She simply could not afford to stay in the teaching profession. She had to choose between teaching or being able to pay her rent. I still remember the day that she told her kindergarten students that she would not be returning the following year. The children sobbed. That was their family, and she sobbed too. Our school and county lost a deeply caring and knowledgeable teacher, a teacher that created a safe classroom community year after year filled with laughter and learning. The same sad story is happening in every school in our county, and it's going to continue to happen. Our schools cannot afford the high turnover that is a result of low pay and broken promises. That is why over 80 work sites and almost 3,000 of us have come together through our union to demand change. And this is the change we are asking for. We're asking you to increase the local supplement, including a 4.5% increase for certified staff, 4% increase for classified staff, and pay for extra duties. We thank you in advance for doing what you said you were going to do with a multi-year plan to protect our schools and our profession. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Daniel Grant King, followed by Jenny Clayton.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is good being back in this room. I hadn't been in a while. Superintendent Taylor, Vice Chair Johnson Hostler, and Chair Haggerty, and members of the board, I'm Daniel Grant King, and I'm currently an educator with Wake County. I'm also a proud member of NCAE, and I would like to, I don't even know where to begin because many of my colleagues have already touched on what I was going to say this evening. But we have to recognize that there is no secret that teachers are often undervalued and underpaid in our society. Despite the current role that our educators play in shaping the future of our children, many teachers and colleagues struggle to make ends meet to provide for their own families. This is unacceptable, and it's time for us as a district to take broad and consequential measures, I'm sure, to make sure that teachers and educators are compensated. In addition to low salaries, our district also struggles with inadequate support for our substitute teachers, because when a teacher is absent, it is crucial that students have the continuing of education provided even when that teacher is absent. So I urge the Wake County School Board to continue advocating for educators and to please do what you were promised, that you said you were going to do, to raise for all certified staff and classified staff within the plan that was described on this evening. Also, investing in our educators is not only the right thing to do, but it is also crucial for the future success of our students. Because without our educators leaving the profession, guess what happens? Our students suffer. And not only that, our educators suffer. Because where do they go? They go to other jobs. They go to places like Costco and Chick-fil-A and many others who pay more. And why is that? Because the state and our district is failing once again to provide what was promised. So I am encouraging everybody. I'm reminded of a Bible text that says, we have not because we what? Ask not. And so we must remember that even though there is some work to do, we must continue to put our students at top priority. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jenny Clayton, followed by Carol Muth. Good evening.
Hi. Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Jenny Clayton. I'm a Wake NCAE member and a petition signer. and I am a high school teacher at Cary High. So I am here to add my voice in support of paying teachers so that they stay in the county. And I want to talk to you about just what it's like when I'm called on to cover a class. 12 years ago, I started at Cary High School. Covering classes was not so much of a thing. As vacancies have piled up and positions unfilled and more teachers being absent, those calling on to cover classes has really increased. We have every couple weeks, you can be sure that you're going to get called on, and that's something I can kind of plan for, my week on call. Sometimes the vacancies or the absences are so much that we get called when it's not our week. But anyway it happens, it's a stressful part of the day of a job that's already stressful. In my case specifically, I teach immigrant English learners, and I teach a 3-hour block in the morning. The best time for me, I'm a 15-year veteran teacher, to plan for my next day is right after that 3-hour block. I literally stand in my space and I think about the interactions that just happen there, peer-to-peer, me to my students, and I think, who missed something today? What should I focus on tomorrow? Who showed an interest in something today that I want to focus on? What did I learn about a student today? Whether their curiosity or something that's going on with them outside of school that I want to make sure I run down, or that I want to, it's an area of interest that I want to add to my plans. Like that's the professionalism that makes good teaching great teaching. Our students deserve great teaching. If I'm running to cover a class right after my 3 hours of teaching, that is gone. It's hard to recover. Yes, I can recover it on my own time. After school, after my meetings, I can try to get myself back in game mode, recover that, do my grading, my assessing, giving feedback, but that doubles my commute. Or I can do it at home. That cuts into that work-life balance that they tell us is good to have. The opportunities for me to conference with my students about social emotional, how they're doing. It's course registration time, which is really important. Talking with students individually about what classes they have and need. Those opportunities are lost. So I've been doing this for 12 years at Cary. I've mentored teachers continuously. Over half of them didn't sign this petition. They're not here tonight to ask for fair pay because they quit. That's hard. Vacancies will lead to more vacancies because it's stressful for us who are here, and it's hard to see teachers who liked teaching and were good at it leave because of the money. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Muth, followed by Willie Vick.
Hello, Superintendent and the school board. My name is Carol Muth, and I have been a gun safety advocate since Sandy Hook. That's over 10 years. That's a decade of caring about gun safety. But I want to say one thing first. Pay the teachers more. And please figure out something with the college leadership academies, because they need your help too. Many of our kids, including mine, have had incidents with guns at school. That's why gun safety initiatives are so important. The facts on safe storage speak for themselves. You've already heard that 74% of school shooters get their guns from home or the house of a friend or a relative. But the next one may be a fact that you do not know. In states where there is wide-scale safe storage of firearms, accidental child gun injuries and deaths decreased by 85%. If we can get people to store their guns safely, we can save a lot of lives. We cannot accept a reality where our children's lives are put at risk through irresponsible gun storage. Our students deserve to be safe. Our teachers deserve to be safe. And our administrators deserve to be safe too. Your Wake County resolution on safe storage of guns is a great start. So on behalf of thousands of Wake County Public School students, parents, and teachers, I have two things to say. The first is thank you, and the second is keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Willie Vick, followed by Jennifer Lobbs. Hey, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Willie Vick. Good evening, Dr. Taylor, school board. I'm here to speak about the biweekly pay on behalf of my coworkers. That's a very serious issue. And when I was in the process of driving here, I was thinking about that we all play a big role when it comes to education, from the school bus drivers to the janitors to the cafeteria workers up into the teachers. And just last week, I experienced what it was like to have a bus driver shortage. One of my high schools, I was dropping off my kids, and in front of me was a city bus, a Go Raleigh city bus. And off that bus were 25 students that got off that city bus. And if that's not serious, and we're talking about gun violence and everything, imagine what they have access to on those city buses. I mean, they're riding up here with homeless people, going to a high school for education. And the thing I thought about is that, being that we're all important inside of this educational field, if we don't do something really seriously for the teachers, for the bus drivers, for everybody, those kids are going to be lost. And what I mean by that, what I saw last week with those kids getting off the city bus, some of those kids that are riding the buses, you don't imagine what's going through their mind. If we don't show that we care and no more than put them on a city bus, and then when they get to classes, we expect these teachers to mentor them and teach them, their mind is not even thinking about education at that point, because think about how they got to school on a city bus. There wasn't even a school bus able to get those kids to school. 22 kids off of a city bus. So I'm saying to you guys, take it into consideration. What we're saying here tonight, don't let it be in vain. There's a saying, together we stand, divided we fall. That's a saying that I have. Together we stand, divided we're going to fail. And until we meet the needs of the teachers, the bus drivers, custodian workers, cafeteria workers, these kids, their education is going to be in vain. You know, so I'm just saying, and I'm begging you, please, take into consideration everything that's been said here tonight, especially with the bus drivers being that we're the first face that they'll see. Do something about it. It's time out for talk and be about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jennifer Lobbs.
Hello. My name is Jennifer Lobbs, and I come to you as a parent of 2 children that go to a Wake County middle school, as a wife of a teacher that teaches at a high school in our county, and as a Public School Strong member that supports public schools in our state, and an overall supporter of Wake County public school system. I just want to say that this school board meeting has been one of the best school board meetings that I've been to in the last 5 years that I started coming to. And the reason why is that there are so many different opinions and so many different voices that are sharing with you as you are representatives of our county. And the majority of children that are educated in our county are part of our schools. So this is us. And I thank you. I want to talk about something as simple as the twice monthly payroll for eligible staff. Seems like a really simple thing, you know, as me, somebody on the outside is thinking, oh yeah, why can't we pay our bus drivers twice? What I didn't realize is one of the reasons why I started getting involved speaking at the school board meetings was a school board member that used to be here told me, she says, you don't realize how much information and processing and stuff goes on for one little decision. And I didn't realize that until I started following and seeing the work groups and seeing all of the other stuff and all these people that you guys have hired that really look at the impacts and what it processes. It does start coming from us speaking of ideas and us working together, and man, there's some great stuff happening. And it's not the individual thing about for or against being paid twice a month. And I really, for me as an outsider, think, oh my gosh, the bus drivers are amazing, and all the other staff, you know, I wish they would. And some of the teachers here that were talking about being paid and working 2 and 3 jobs. I don't know a teacher, including my husband, that doesn't work a side hustle in order to support their family. And he's been teaching for over 20 years. I just want to say that thank you for looking at alternative ways to support our staff and our schools, because I really think it comes down to how do we raise our school system and continue forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Labs. So at this point in our agenda, if you remember when I introduced public comment, I said that if public comment exceeds 30 minutes, we reserve the right to conduct other board business. It's tripled that. We've gone for an hour and 30 minutes, and it has all been worthwhile. And we have additional comments that will also be worthwhile. But I know there are also people here that are waiting for very specific board action tonight, including some of our students. So what I'd like to do is move, that concludes our on-agenda speakers. I'd like to move ahead to the rest of our agenda to focus on some of these important, urgent action items, and then we'll come back, and then we'll resume public comment with our off-agenda topics. So at this point, thank you. At this point, what I'd like to do is move to our consent agenda. Board members have reviewed our consent agenda. Is there any motion? We have a motion from Mr. Swanson to adopt the consent agenda, second from Vice Chair Johnson Hostler. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes. Next, we'll move into our action agenda. And the first items we have are consideration of several policies coming to us on first reading. I believe our first policy will be policy, a series of policies 4334, 5035, 6422, operation of small unmanned aircraft systems and drones. All right, Ms. Philbrook, we'll wait just a minute.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'm bringing policy 4334, 5035, 6422, operation of small unmanned aircraft systems, drones, for first reading. This is a revised policy, and revisions are recommended by staff. It was discussed at the February 27th, 2024 Policy Committee meeting. Once adopted, it will replace the current version of the policy. Tonight, we request the board's approval of the first reading of policy 4334, 5035, 6422, operation of small unmanned aircraft systems, drones.
All right. In the absence of our policy chair tonight, is there anyone who would like to make a motion to adopt the policy on first reading?
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Edmonds, second from, did I hear Ms. Caulfield? Are there any comments or any questions for our speaker? All right. It looks like we had a good, thorough discussion. Is there a vote at this time? I'll call it. All in favor of adoption of the policy on first reading, please signify. This is policy 4334, 5035, 6422, operation of small unmanned aircraft systems and drones. All in favor of the policy on first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We'll move to our next policy on the agenda, Board Policy 7240, drug-free and alcohol-free workplace, on first reading. All right, welcome, Dr. Matillo.
Thank you, Chair Haggerty, members of the board. I know when you mentioned the urgent matters that the public was waiting on, you were not referring to these HR policies, so I will try to get through them as expeditiously as possible. However, the first one is a little bit more lengthy, so tonight I'm bringing 7240, drug-free and alcohol-free workplace, for first reading. This policy was created by School Boards Association as part of their policies to lead the schools, and we reviewed this on February 27th during the policy committee meeting. You'll remember we agreed to a change during that meeting to include the use of tobacco and nicotine products as a reference. We also just added a section E, duty to report, where we said that in addition to the supervisor or principal, employees could report to employee relations. So we agreed upon those two. But since that time, we also had the conversation again about discrimination against persons for the lawful use of lawful products, and that was really in response to specific CBD and THC. So we had that discussion. We did go back and do some review, and if it's okay with the board, I'd like to walk a couple changes on tonight as a proposal.
Please proceed.
Okay. So the focus of that section was really around the second sentence in section A, paragraph 1, if you want to reference that. And it referenced prohibiting employees from the use of CBD or THC, regardless of whether it was noted as a controlled substance under state or federal law. So after reviewing and in response to the feedback, we're recommending striking that second sentence in its entirety that talks about prohibiting specifically the CBD and the THC, but then adding to, in the second paragraph under section A, adding to the end of that first sentence, or other lawful products, including but not limited to any legally acquired cannabis products that have intoxicating effects. And we really think the deletion and the additional language here gets more at the spirit of the policy, which is to address substances that are either a part of the workplace or impact an employee's job responsibilities, and not to try to regulate things that occur on their own time, private use, that does not impact their work performance. So we also wanted to just add in section A, if we did agree to deleting that sentence, just adding any time this policy is applicable, because we do have that language consistently. So those three proposals we do think may satisfy the board's concern, and we present those for you tonight.
Great. Is there a motion to adopt the policy on first reading?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Edmonds, second from Mr. Hershey. Any comments or questions? I will say that when this came up in policy committee, I had several questions about its compliance with the Legal Use of Legal Products Act, and working with the staff and with legal counsel. I feel that all of these changes adequately address these. We've vetted them, we've looked at other language, and I think this is a great solution. Any other comments or questions? All right, all in favor of adoption of Policy 7240, Drug-Free and Alcohol-Free Workplace on first reading, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, the policy passes. Thank you.
Great, and you will, of course, see those changes in writing during the second reading of this policy so that you can take a look. Our next policy is Policy 7241, Drug and Alcohol Testing of Commercial Motor Vehicle Operators. Tonight I'm bringing that one as well. It was discussed also at Policy Committee in February, and when given final approval, it will replace the current version. Also in 7240, when we talked about the CBD and THC references, there are also references to the same here in Policy 7241, but instead of returning it to Policy Committee, we're asking for the board's consideration to approve this one on first reading as well. Staff will go back and continue to study whether that makes sense to alter 7241 at all, and we'll bring that back on second read. And if there are some substantial changes, we can certainly bring it to action as opposed to putting it on consent, so that I can review those with you.
Chair Haggerty?
Yes,
I
Ms.
move that
Edmonds.
we adopt 7241 on first reading.
A motion by Ms. Edmonds, second by Mr. Hershey. Again, just the same concerns that were raised in Policy Committee. Staff and legal counsel have done a good job of vetting these. We think we have a good solution that complies with other state statutes, but still maintains the integrity of the policy and the strength of what we're trying to do and who we're trying to protect in the workplace. So I also support the policy on first reading and the motion. Are there any other questions or any other comments? All right, all in favor of adoption of Policy 7241, drug and alcohol testing of commercial motor vehicle operators on first reading, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, the policy passes on first reading. Next, we'll go to Board Policy 7500, workday and overtime on first reading.
Okay, thank you, Chair Hegarty. Not much to go over here. We reviewed it in Policy Committee. There was a recommendation to remove the word strictly from the opening paragraph. So we did do that based on the board's recommendation. So tonight, we do request the board's approval of the first reading of Policy 7500.
Chair Haggerty, I move that we adopt 7500 on first reading.
Motion from Ms. Edmonds, second from Mr. Hershey. Any comments, any questions about the policy? All right, all in favor of adoption of Board Policy 7500 on first reading, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the policy passes. Next, we'll move to Board Policy 7501, employee absences on first reading.
Yeah, this one, during Policy Committee, there weren't any changes recommended, so we're just bringing it back and requesting board approval of the first reading of Policy 7501, employee absences tonight.
Chair Haggerty, I move that we adopt 7501 on first reading, and as I am the Vice Chair of Policy, thank you.
Yes. We have a motion from the Vice Chair of the Policy Committee, seconded by the Chair of the Facilities Committee, Mr. Hershey. Are there any comments or are there any questions about this policy? Again, we had a good discussion, I thought, in committee. All right, all in favor of adopting Board Policy 7501, employee absences on first reading, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the policy passes on first reading. Continuing on, Board Policy 7505, compliance with State Board of Education employment policies on first reading.
Again, no changes here during Policy Committee. Had good discussion, so we are requesting the board's approval of the first reading of Policy 7505, compliance with State Board of Education employment policies.
Chair Haggerty, I move we adopt 7505 on first reading.
Motion from the Vice Chair of the Policy Committee to adopt Board Policy 7505 on first reading, seconded by Mr. Hershey. Any questions, any comments? All right, all in favor of Board Policy 7505, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that passes. And then the final policy being considered tonight, Board Policy 7510, employee leave on first reading.
Thank you, Chair Hegarty. The only change we made here during committee was that we had changed a section reference in the first part of the policy from Section E to Section C as we changed some lettering throughout the policy. And I will just point out, this is a short policy, and we have now started bringing the individual leave policies to Policy Committee, so staff will start to see some of those specific policies that I think will be really helpful in future presentations. So tonight, we're just requesting the approval of the first reading of Policy 7510, leave.
Chair Haggerty, I move we adopt 7510 on first reading.
Ooh, we got a race for the second there. I'll take the motion made by Ms. Edmonds, second by Ms. Caulfield. Any questions, any comments about the policy? All right, all in favor of Board Policy 7505 on first reading, please signify by saying aye. I'm sorry, 7510. I was going to do that one twice. Board Policy 7510 on employee leave on first reading, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, the policy passes. Thank you, Dr. Matillo.
Thank you for your time.
All right. The next item we have is a presentation from the superintendent on the cooperative innovative high schools. I believe this will, you present this one directly, or do you have staff coming up?
I'll present it directly.
All right. Thank you, Dr.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I've had an opportunity to talk with all board members individually concerning our partnership with St. Augustine's University and the students that attend Young Men and Young Women's Leadership Academy. So tonight, administration brings forth a recommendation regarding the MOU with St. Augustine's University to ensure the future success of students attending Wake County Public Schools Young Men and Young Women's Leadership Academy. For the past 10 years, students at both schools have achieved at an enormous level. With the recent achievement levels of A and B status at both schools, graduation rates exceeding the district average, and nearly 80% of graduates enrolling in four-year universities and 7 to 8% enrolling in two-year colleges, both of these exceed the district average. Because of the tremendous support from parents, teachers, administrators, and all Wake County Public Schools staff, we know that this level of achievement will continue. While our partnership with St. Augustine's University has been a part of this success, recent struggles at the university have placed severe strains on our ability to maintain this partnership and not put the college academic components of our students at risk. St. Augustine's University is currently arbitrating their SACS accreditation, which once started will contain a 90-day timeline. For these reasons, Wake County Public Schools chose to stay at St. Augustine's University for the remainder of this semester in order to limit transitional stress for students and families and the ability to complete accredited courses for college transfer. In light of these conditions, administration will seek to identify alternate higher education choices for students at the Wake Young Men's and Young Women's Leadership Academy for the short-term future during the 25-26 school year, and a long-term partner for a cooperative, innovative high school. Budget considerations have been developed to support the short-term transition to be recommended for the upcoming school year. With that, administration seeks board approval for the following recommendations. Wake County Public Schools Wake County Public Schools' current MOU amendment with St. Augustine's University was signed on 21 January of 2021, with the original MOU being signed on 6 March 2024. I recommend that Wake County Public Schools end the partnership with St. Augustine's University per the MOU effective on 1 July, providing the 90-day notice required of the MOU. I recommend that the Wake County Public School enroll students taking college courses with the Wake Tech College to provide courses to these rising juniors and seniors for the 24-25 school year. And I recommend administration be given authority to seek a new cooperative, innovative high school partner as part of an application submission to the State Board of Education for their consideration for the 25-26 school year. And with that, I will yield to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Are there any questions for Dr. Taylor? I know that you've had chances to speak with Dr. Taylor individually, so just if there's no questions at the table, I know that they've probably been answered in individual conversations. At this time, I would entertain a motion. Mr. Hershey.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to terminate the Cooperative Innovative High School Memorandum of Agreement between the Board and the St. Augustine's University dated March 6, 2014, at the end of the 90-day period, at the end of the 90-day notice period.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Caulfield? I'm sorry, from Ms. Rice. All right. Is there any discussion? Ms. Edmonds.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Taylor and all the leadership team and staff, including the leadership at the two, at Waiwilla and Wake Young Men's. I know this has been extremely stressful and for all concerned, and it obviously in addition to the parents and the students. But thank you. I know the meetings have been exhaustive and late and many, and I just thank you all for all your work.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Any additional comment? Dr. Taylor, I do want to thank you and your staff who've been working to try to come up with a resolution to this. We've heard from students and parents tonight about some of their concerns and anxieties, particularly around the future, credits, what different options might hold. And I know you've assured us privately, but publicly, I don't know if you want to make a statement about communication with the families.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have a scheduled meeting with parents tomorrow and students to share any updates based on the board's vote tonight. We know that this has been a stressful time for students, for faculty, for staff, but I want to assure everyone that we've been in a constant mode of trying to determine what is the best course of action for our students. So we will have a session tomorrow. We can answer questions that they will certainly and surely have for administration, and then we will plot the course forward, making sure that we keep them in constant updates in terms of what we do.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. All right, then, if we're ready to vote, all in favor of the motion by Mr. Hershey to terminate the MOU, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you. The next item on our agenda, Technology, Finance, and Communications, will be a recommendation on payroll frequency, payday frequency. I see Ms. Posey.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Good evening, Board Chair Haggerty, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Taylor. This evening on action, you have a work session item that we shared earlier today, where staff provided you an update on the payroll frequency, along with survey results from staff and some options on payroll frequency. And this evening, I believe you would like to take action on voting on one of those options. And Dr. Taylor, I believe you had something you wanted to share with board members as well.
Absolutely. We just say that administration recommends the adoption of Plan B that was shared with the board in our work session, which includes hourly employees being paid semi-monthly beginning in January and remaining qualifying employees being paid in July 2025.
Mr. Swanson.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation and proceed with this action.
So there's a motion by Mr. Swanson, a second by Vice Chair Johnson Hostler. I know we had discussion earlier in work session. Are there any additional questions or any further discussion? All right, then we will take a vote on the motion, on Mr. Swanson's motion. All in favor of adopting the superintendent's recommendation to increase the frequency of the payday frequency to a twice monthly pay result for staff as described in option 2, is it option 2 or option B?
B.
Option B from, as described in our previous work session. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Posey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So at this point in our agenda, we would go into closed session, but we do have, any additional speakers who remained for public comment on off-topic agenda items. I saw that Ms. Bilodeau had left. Is Joseph Deaton present? I'm not seeing Mr. Deaton. Our next speaker who signed up was Ben Chapman. All right, Ben. Thanks for sticking it out with us.
Yeah, thank you for hearing me out. I'm actually grateful that y'all kind of did that way. In part because I heard a little bit about how the policy committee was going back and forth with the non-discrimination with regards to the drug enforcement policy. So I'll start mine. Hello, I'm Ben Chapman, Millbrook High School, go Wildcats, class of 2012. I'm an Eagle Scout, library school graduate, and history professional, and community advocate and organizer. I want to commend this board for considering Crown Act protections. I want to thank you sincerely and strongly encourage you to incorporate these common sense protections into existing policy, cross-referencing where necessary. Some of you may remember that last year I had long red hair. I had two goals when I grew out my hair. First, I intended to donate it to Locks for Love, and the second, I wanted to raise awareness and start local conversations about the Crown Act and inclusive non-discrimination protections. Tonight, I'll advocate for the most inclusive protections possible. Since August 2022, I've been advocating for Crown Act protections in Johnson County. I began in my town of Clayton with two arguments. One, they should consider adding more language, more protected classes, because the policy they passed didn't even include all the current federal protected classes. And two, that since 2021, Wake County has Crown Act protections in the law, it seemed arbitrary that some types of discrimination were legal just over the county line. I was incredibly grateful to hear that protections for hair length are on your mind as you develop this policy. A profoundly disappointing ongoing story is that of Daryl George, a junior at Barbers Hill High School in Texas. He has been unjustly sent to in-school suspension since August 2023. Here in North Carolina, Mia Chavis, the mother of 7-year-old Edward Chavis, told WRAL News that her son's hair Her son's long hair is part of their Lumbee tribe and Native American heritage, and she refuses to cut it. I stand with Daryl, and I stand with Edward. Hair length isn't the only way to make your policy more inclusive. In Section 3404, Inclusive Interpretation of Sex and Race Discrimination, Wake County specifically states their intent to interpret, quote, all legal prohibitions on sex discrimination to include discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression, and all legal prohibitions on race discrimination to include discrimination on the basis of protected hairstyles. Local law should inform your policy, and I thank you for your commitment to create a respectful and open world for natural hair. I'll briefly note, it's a respectful and open world. There was a journalist recently who said workplace. We can think a little bit bigger than that. This is about non-discrimination protections in all areas and aspects of our lives. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a couple other speakers on the list, if any are here. Carlin Hardy. All right. Thanks for sticking it out with us.
Good evening, Board. My name is Carlin Hardy, and I am here to address the inequity in access to driver education for our students in low-income and underserved communities in Wake County. I was hired by Wake Tech Community College to serve organizations like Boys and Girls Club, Communities in Schools, Step Up Ministries, and Big Brother Big Sister to help expose teens and tweens to post-secondary educational options and career pathways to help lift them out of their current environments and economic situations. In my role, I'm connecting with recent and soon-to-be Wake County Public School grads with job opportunities and paid internships. As a work development professional, I know how important it is to earn credentials that can open doors to jobs and pathways otherwise closed due to not having a driver's license. Earning your permit, gaining that driving experience and license, in my opinion, is a life skill that everyone should be able to enjoy. It's no secret that the students I primarily work with aren't on the traditional four-year college track. These young people are considering community college, apprenticeship programs, or going straight into the workforce. And it's becoming more and more apparent that our Black and brown students are getting overlooked when it comes to obtaining these crucial milestones. Wake County Public School System has only one driver's education contractor that serves its students. I've heard countless stories of students not being able to register because classes are filled within minutes of its opening, extremely long wait lists, and younger students being placed above older students because their parents are more connected and know how to work the system. Working with these communities, I've heard parents and students being unable to pay the $65 fee for a classroom portion, or students telling me that they will just wait until they're 18 so they can just go to the DMV to take the test. Those that know how to drive but have never been formally taught are out here driving without a license or permit. This is unsafe and illegal. But in their eyes, how else will I make it to work to support myself and my family? I know the buses are free now and that there are free Raleigh Go Passes for students, but let's be real. Our students are not using public transportation. The bottom line is that there are too many barriers and roadblocks in front of these kids who need these skills and credentials, and I propose the county add another driver education company contractor and/or consider embedding a class inside one of the youth community organizations that I serve so we can better serve our Wake County Public School students who need this service most. I am an advocate and a voice for the voiceless who sees a problem and is trying to do something about it, and I would greatly appreciate any assistance on this issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our last speaker, if he's here, is Michael Carpenter. Is Michael Carpenter present? If not, that will conclude public comment. At this point, I would entertain a motion to return to closed session. We have a motion from Mr. Swanson, a second from Vice Chair Johnson-Hostler. All in favor of returning to closed session? Oh, Mr. Malone? For the statutory reasons stated previously. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? All right, we're now in closed session. Thank you all for coming. We're going to continue on our business for who knows how long, and then head on out of here. Good night.